the genetic freak, the big bad booty daddy, telling you to stay tuned for the Halloween 3 live commentary. On a peak. Welcome to the Halloween 3 live commentary. None of you out there will be able to guess what I'm going to be for Halloween this year. But we are live. We've got a full house here. We're going to sit down and we're going to watch and discuss the now classic, infamous, controversial Halloween 3 season of The Witch. I'm your moderator, Big Papa Pizzal. With me tonight, I've got Orc. What's going on, Orc?
What's going on, players? Drinking that Coke Zero. Oh, shit. Oh, delicious. It's never bad unless you get a flat can. Then it tastes like shit. But,
also with me tonight, I have got Raiho Magnifico. What's going on, Raiho?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Doing well. Getting my genetic freak on.
Get your genetic freak on. I can't even believe this. I came back a second ago, all of a sudden you have the chainmail on and everything. That's a blast. That's a blast. I haven't watched wrestling in I don't know how long, but what I did. This looks weird. I have the webcam on the TV and the monitor over here, so I keep talking to you guys over here. But okay, I gotta remember the camera's here.
You're on camera. You're on camera A.
I'm on camera A.
Also with me tonight is the legendary Rambo Ralph. What's going on, Rambo?
Hello there, folks. I did not know when I woke up today that I'd be with this group of people, and thank you, Anthony Massey, for joining us. As well as Big Papa Pump, watching Halloween 3. That just goes to show you how strange the Sausage Factory is.
Only here can you watch Halloween 3 with Scott Steiner.
Scott Steiner and Anthony Massey. Only here on the Sausage Factory.
Exactly, so there you go.
Also with me tonight is OCP Communications. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Just got back, saw the Back to the Future trilogy in the theater last night. It was awesome. It was really heavy. It was some serious shit.
Was it your density?
Yes, it was. It was my density. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. Watch one of my favorite films, a film that I fell in love with from the very first viewing on VHS. A film that I was amazed by the backlash it got, and I still kind of am. Just because Michael Myers is in the sequel, some of the sequels, doesn't mean they're good.
Right. You said Back to the Future Day? Was that yesterday? I didn't even realize that.
Yep, Back to the Future Day. October 21st, 2015, the date Marty and Doc went to the future.
I think
4:29 p.m.
Every feed I have on every social media was just flooded the entire day.
That's why. So you were wondering, like, what's with the Back to the Future stuff?
I actually got
tired. The only thing I was wondering.
Yeah.
The only thing I was wondering yesterday is, I wonder what Eric Stoltz is doing today.
Crying into his scotch.
Also with me is Jay the Stingray. How's it going, Stingray?
I'm doing good, Scott. I got my copy of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 queued up and ready to go. I'm ready to do this.
All right.
Really underrated film.
I'm really excited to get scared tonight.
Here to share it with me.
All right. Awesome.
I tuned into the wrong show.
I love white horses.
Oh my God.
Love hurts.
Also with me tonight is the Professor B Movie Mike. What's going on, Mike?
What's on, fellas? Time to get some Halloween 3 going. It's going to be a good time. Hopefully it's better than the movie I watched earlier today.
What was that?
What was that?
Yeah, I went to the AMC Universal IMAX. Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I watched Crimson Peak.
Oh.
Beautiful movie. I mean, Del Toro's, he's visually a genius. I mean, it's an awesome flick as far as that goes. The acting was great. I mean, the editing, the visual effects, everything was great. But the story, I didn't like it. It just, when it came down to it...
I heard the trailer was misleading. That's what I've heard from a lot of people. The trailer was pretty much a lie.
And so, it's one of those things where I loved it, but I hated it at the same time. It was kind of like a painful pleasure. It's like, I really love what I'm seeing, but I hate what I'm seeing at the same time. I can't really recommend it. It's decent. I mean, like I said, it's film school. You sit there and go, wow, this is perfect. The way he shot it, the way everything's done. Yeah. It's like,
right.
It's awesome. But the story just, I saw the twist coming a mile away. It wasn't scary. It wasn't really there's ghosts in it, but it's not really a horror film. It's more of a gothic thriller.
That reminds me.
It's kind of like a chick horror flick.
Yeah.
I think women would really enjoy it because there's a lot of stuff in it for them to enjoy. And I didn't really enjoy seeing what was his name, Hiddleston, whatever.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston or Hiddleston.
And on IMAX, it was just too much. I'm sorry, but the big white pasty ass. It was like, holy shit.
Well, that'd be like seeing Kirk Douglas's ass in Saturn III on a big screen. That's not something anybody wants.
Well, it is Halloween, so maybe it is appropriate.
If you enjoy that kind of thing, great. Go see it on IMAX. It's huge. You know what I'm saying? But for me, that was just kind of a.
So you're saying
I wasn't expecting to see it. We don't get to see any females or anything. They're all fully clothed, but all of a sudden, big white Hillenbottom or whatever pops up. It's like, oh, that's too much. But visuals were great. Movie overall was well made. I just didn't like the story or the twist.
It reminds me a lot of Nightmare 5 in a way, because I watched that recently along with the rest of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, because I'm checking them out for my channel. And Nightmare 5 has some great gothic settings and some really great set pieces, but it doesn't fit with the franchise, and I hate it because it doesn't belong in Nightmare on Elm Street. So it's like, oh, that's pretty, that's nice, that gothic architecture, but this isn't a Ken Russell film, and this just doesn't work. So yeah.
I'm a Del Toro fanboy, though, so really, this is kind of harsh. It really hurts me to say these things about his movie, And I agree with Jay had a video out about discussing this movie. It definitely it earned the R. I appreciated that. There's very little of it in there, but when there is some violence, it's brutal, and it just kind of takes you back a little bit. But
that was a very good video.
Wading through the monotony of the romance plot, it was just when you realize you're watching a movie, when you're out of it, that's an indication that it's not really entertaining. So maybe that was what it was, kind of a stale period piece with some gothic horror elements in it. And I don't know. I felt like it was very the advertising was very misleading on that one.
Were there any crimson peaks on a peak?
There was, but not that kind.
Okay. And making his second appearance on the Sausage Factory, our very special guest tonight, the co-producer, co-writer of Halloween 25 Years of Terror, and the former webmaster of the official Halloween website, Mr. Anthony Massey. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. I watch this movie once a year, and I haven't watched it yet this year, so it's great to be watching it with all you guys.
It's awesome to have you back.
Yeah, this movie, I gotta say, I hated this movie when it came out, like everybody.
Yeah.
And I've grown to really love it over the years, and I tell people about it all the time. So it'll be fun to hear what you guys have to say about it too as we watch it.
I remember.
It grows on you.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked it the first time I saw it, but I was kind of like, wait a minute. I thought this was a Halloween movie.
Exactly.
What did I just watch? It was good, but it wasn't what I went to see.
Yep.
Yeah. So but over the years, I love it. I watched it. Last time I watched it was last Halloween.
I make it a Halloween tradition, ever since I first saw it. So it's like every Halloween 3.
Yeah.
It's been a.
It's a very interesting road that Halloween 3 traveled, from controversy to cult status, and we'll get into all that during this show. If you guys at home want to queue up your own copy of Halloween 3 and watch it along with all of us and the Big Bad Booty Daddy here, I've got my Halloween 3 Fright Rag shirt on. I've got my Halloween 3 novelization here. I'm Halloween 3 to the gills. Actually, this isn't Die. I was watching Halloween 3 earlier, and just the power of the Atkins made my hair turn this way. So,
the power is powerful.
He is very powerful. I think I may
falling
also be.
off.
Yeah, I think I may also be pregnant, as a matter of fact, as well.
Highly likely.
The Atkins is powerful. It's a powerful thing, the Atkins. But if you guys at home want to queue up your own copy of Halloween 3 and watch it with us, go ahead, do that now. We'll give you guys a few minutes. We're going to start this film as we do all of our commentaries at the very beginning of the film at 0.00 before the Universal logo, before any kind of titles or anything like that, so that we can all kind of be in sync together. So we'll give you guys a few minutes to get all that together. And while we do that, Anthony, have you heard anything about the new Halloween film that's in production or being filmed now?
No.
I heard it got delayed.
I've heard a couple things, and I actually really admire the person who's directing it. I mean, I think Marcus is going to do a great job with it. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing him for a Hellraiser documentary that is coming out later this month, actually. And we did his interview a long time ago, though. We did when did we do that interview? It was like, I think we did that interview in like 2010. Like, it's 5 years old, this interview. And our Hellraiser documentary didn't come to light. We were actually going to make it with the Shout Factory. And then at the time we were making it for them, I don't know if you guys know who Ryan Turek is. Yeah, so Ryan was actually directing it, and we were working together. And so we interviewed, oh my God, all these people, probably 20, 25 people from Hellraiser. And we got all these interviews in the can, and then Miramax rebuilt itself. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but Miramax was defunct for a while, and then all of a sudden, Miramax was refunded. These investors came around and rebuilt Miramax, and then took the property of Hellraiser back from Disney, who we were paying for clips through Shout. So they screwed up the entire the whole thing got messed up. So all these interviews have just been sitting around for a while. Earlier this year, a company called Arrow up in you know Arrow, right?
The Scarlet Box? Is that where that stuff's
That's what it's going to be. So all those interviews are ending up in that box set.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we sold the footage. It's produced by my company. It's I didn't really have my hands on it the way that I wanted to. But at least all those people, and I tell everybody, I'm like, at least you're 5 years younger in it, you know? Like,
you look great.
Yeah. So I only know Marcus from that. But how do you guys feel about it?
I'm excited about it. I haven't been excited about a Halloween movie in a while, but I've read a little bit about the director and the idea behind it and the story, and I'm on board.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I am too. I think it definitely needs a fresh set of eyes on it. It needs a whole new just tone overall. I think it's definitely what it needs badly. And I've liked the collection was okay. I actually really liked the collector, the first one they did. I thought that was a nice little breath of fresh air, and I'm looking forward to it. I've heard a couple of different things about the story, like Michael Myers is supposed to be captured and on trial or something like that. I don't know how that'll play out, but I'm definitely more optimistic for this one than if they did another Rob Zombie Halloween.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the second zombie film. I like Zombies Part 2 better than his first movie.
I don't like Hobo Zombie. I don't like Hobo Michael Myers. No Hobo Michael Myers for me.
Gigantic Hobo Michael Myers.
Gigantic, yeah.
I don't know. It's a wait and see thing for me. The Halloween franchise, after Part 4, except for H2O, and even H2O is hurt because of Resurrection, who comes up with that lame thing that, it was a double. That, Michael Myers somehow put a paramedic in his costume and his mask, and then some stupid shit. But the director, he looks like he's definitely talented. He's got passion for it. I guess I'm more curious about it than another Friday the 13th, because Halloween, I think there might be a little bit more you could do there. But at the same time, I don't know really, because what do you do with a slasher franchise that has been going on for years? And it's just
Who
a new
said
Friday
that,
the 13th. It ended up getting pushed back already. So
Who said that
forward.
did you say the new Halloween movie got pushed back too? I know the new Friday the 13th got pushed back yet again to
I
next
read
year.
something. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think I saw something on YouTube or whatever where they might have said it got delayed. So
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, after Busta Rhymes and Rob Zombie, how bad could it be?
Trick or treat.
I mean, I think series has already hit rock bottom, so it's got to be better than that. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, even if it's better than the absolute shit than those movies are, it's not saying much. I'm just that's like,
And I'm not. I don't hate Rob Zombie's movies. I mean, there are things about his Halloween movies I like, but there's more things I don't like. So, and it makes it hard to watch. I mean, it's the overall negative is higher than the positive, so there's no reason for me to watch them. But I'm not saying they're total crap or anything, but they are what they are.
I'm with Anthony. I can stomach the second one a lot better than I can't. I hate the first one with a passion. You guys know that, but the second Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is okay with me because it's just so crazy and off the wall. I mean, that to me feels like Rob Zombie's Halloween, not Rob Zombie's Halloween.
They turned Laurie Strode into a terrible character in that movie, into this.
It turned everybody into a terrible character.
I know.
His movies are filled with terrible characters. That's one reason I have a problem with his movies.
Loomis is an asshole. Laurie is
was so unlikable. That's part of the problem.
Bitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Anthony?
No, I was just gonna say, like, everybody's so unlikable, and I think the and again, it's Rob Zombie taking the movie and doing, it's his vision, but I just think basic goals of any director would be, to like the characters that Hannibal Lecter is detestable, but you love the guy, You just feel like there was no attempt to make anyone. Yeah. The only attempt to create sympathy for somebody was for Michael, and it's that's sort of.
That doesn't make any sense.
Backwards filmmaking, So I don't know. Who am I? I mean, it's all art. I mean, some people love the movie. It's all art is subjective, and there are lots of things that I like about that movie. But yeah, I didn't like anyone, and so it's like, how do you root for Laurie Strode? How are you scared for her if she's just a bitch to the kids? Yeah. I don't know. Right. So I think I liked the kids more than I liked her.
I like Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif is the best part of those movies. Yeah.
So, I agree. I think so.
She's running around screaming, "I'm Michael Myers' fucking sister!" I was just like, "Oh, somebody shoot that bitch, please!" I mean, Laurie Strode is smart. She's, she's.
His baby Firefly.
God, it just bothered me.
Everybody at home, if you want to leave us questions or comments, or if you have questions for Mr. Massey, we'll try and do like a little Q&A session after the commentary. So if you have questions for Mr. Massey, leave them in the comment section of the video, or tweet them to us at TSF Nation, or head over to thesausagefactoryshow.com and join us in the live chat over there. And so without further ado, we'll go ahead and we'll get this started. Get this show on the road, and hope everybody's got their copy of Halloween 3 queued up. Mind your volumes, people. Mind your volumes. Turn them down low, and we'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Earth.
There's no Universal, you don't have the music. I always remember the Universal logo.
Mm-hmm. I have my music completely off, and there's no subtitles, so this should be interesting.
I love this intro. I do too. The way they do the computer stuff. Oh.
Yeah, this is a great intro. I love the score to this movie.
It's really long. That's one thing I noticed when I was sitting in the movie theater when I watched it. I was like, holy crap.
But
it's a long intro.
But for me, as long as it has that score, because that score is fantastic.
It is. It's so great by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth.
That's the thing that's going to suck about watching it turned down really low is that half of the goodness is in the music.
Well, I got the digital copy, so I got it right in my ears. So
After this, after going on YouTube, just listen to the soundtrack.
The old
since
man
we've got this
from
long,
RoboCop, yeah.
since we've got this long intro here, let me ask you guys, and I'll start with you, Anthony. Do you remember the first time you saw Halloween 3, and what was your immediate reaction to Halloween 3?
Yeah, I saw Halloween 3 when I was a teenager, and I hated it. Because I felt gypped. I just, I was a teenager. But I really thought, I really did not know Michael wasn't in it. And, I don't know if it was because I didn't see the trailer or whatever. Back then there was no internet. So I really I hated it. I mean, it was like waiting for Michael. But throughout the years, I've come to really love it, and we can talk about that too, about how it grew on you guys too. I'm assuming, I don't know, I could be wrong here, that you guys probably didn't like it either when you first saw it.
I loved it the first time I saw it.
Same here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I appreciated that. I thought I was getting one thing and got another, but also it was for the mind of a young kid. Opposed to now, I mean, I would have known, number one, what I was going to see. But I didn't like it, but I love it now. It's riddled with problems, and it's like you laugh.
It's just like an Atari game, like Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Do you remember? Do you remember how many viewings it took before you started to warm up to the movie?
Seizure warning.
You know what? I used to work in a video store in college, and I had a really good friend there named Heather, she was as big a Halloween fan as I was, and we had 9 televisions stacked like a tic-tac-toe board in the middle of the store.
The stuff in the movie, like where they have all the monitors that are stacked on top of each other.
Yeah. And we were not supposed to play R-rated movies, but every chance we got, we threw the Halloween movies in there. Yeah. And it wasn't until we kept watching Halloween 3 that I kept going, this is good. And we had to watch all of them. We had to go 1, 2, 3. I think at that time, Part 4, I think Part 5 had just come out. That's when I stopped working at the video store. But that's when I started to appreciate it. When I saw it big on the, all the screens had like a piece of the movie. And I remember just watching it over and over and going, "This is a good movie. It's a good movie." And now I recommend it to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I just produced a documentary called "The 50 Best Horror Movies You've Never Seen." I might have mentioned it last time to you guys. I don't know. It came out last year, but this movie is on it. And I say, the title is a little misleading. People have seen the movie, but I'm trying to tell people, go revisit this movie. It is a good movie.
If you just call it Season of the Witch or The Night No One Comes Home, I think it would have been a lot better received than it was.
All right, so you think that it should just not have been called a Halloween movie, just Season of the Witch? That's just what this should have called.
Well, it could have been, but at the same time, no, because without the title attached to it, it would not have become as well known as it is. It wouldn't have gotten a cult following, I think. As quickly, as big of a cult following. It still would have had a cult following, but I just think it would have been, really unheralded. Like, one of those, really diamond...
Well, it might have gotten the same treatment like Night of the Creeps and all these other movies where people know them now.
Yeah, maybe.
I think the Halloween 3 title is really a blessing and a curse, because at the time it was a curse because everybody hated it. Over time, though, however, it's become that sort of curiosity of, it's the black sheep, and that's how it's gained its cult status. If it was just called Season of the Witch, it may have found an audience then, but we probably wouldn't be talking about it and watching it today. You know what I mean?
It would have also been lumped with the George A. Romero film, as it's a completely different plot, but that's the same title, Season of the Witch. So I love these guys, these robot.
I know, they're great.
Killers.
See, when I saw this, I was young enough to where I didn't have the hate that I think a lot of other people that were, already fans of the franchise did.
I guess it's perspective. Like, for somebody like me that had, my first Halloween movie was Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, and then I saw this one in the theater, and then I found the old one, the original on VHS. I mean, I like with the Friday the 13th film, some of you guys, your first one was maybe Jason Goes to Hell. Or maybe Friday 7.
That was me.
So you weren't there from the beginning, so you didn't have that attachment to it when you first saw it. You didn't know the history of it. But those of us that were around it.
I got to tell you, that's very, very interesting, because I saw everything in order as they were coming out. Like in the 80s, like the first 7 Friday movies were made in 8 years.
Yeah.
You know, I went every year. I have a twin
crazy.
brother. My twin brother and I would go every year
Yeah.
with my brother-in-law Donald. We would just sit there, like, and my mom would take me to horror movies. So I saw Nightmare on Elm Street in the theaters. I saw Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Like, I saw everything in order. I never really contemplated, like, younger people, what movie they punched in at. You know, if they saw Halloween 5 first and they loved it, they might hate the original because they like the look of the mask of Halloween 5. It's blowing my mind right now.
You know.
But that's the interesting thing. I'm quite the opposite. Like, I didn't know anything about, say, Friday the 13th, but in '93, the first I ever got into Jason Goes to Hell, and that made me want to go back to watch the others.
Yeah.
Jason Goes to Hell is still.
Every time a movie comes out, it sort of like introduces a legion of new fans to it. You know, like
Yeah.
you mentioned at that time, you realize, oh my God, there's 8 more movies or whatever I haven't seen.
Exactly.
So you go back, yeah. Interesting.
I didn't really get into any of this until much, much later. Like, my mom just sheltered me so much. It's like, you're not really allowed to watch horror films. So when I got to the age where I was able to, I just binge watched everything I could find. And Halloween 3 was one of the ones. I actually think I saw Halloween 3 was the first Halloween film I saw all the way through because my aunt, she was a big horror film fan, and she had it on VHS, and I was staying over at her house, and I watched it one night, and then I just could not stop thinking about it afterwards. And then I got the novelization, and then that was great too. And then I've always really loved this movie. This is the first Scream Factory release I bought was of Halloween 3.
Can we talk about this jingle that was just played?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Good luck getting that out of your head.
I've been singing it for weeks.
It's like the prom night theme song, man. You watch either one of these movies and be done.
That's my cell phone ringtone, and it gets old very quickly.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver.
It's London Bridge is falling down because they didn't want to get into any kind of copyright issues with any other song.
Which is very smart of the producers, you know. I mean, we think about it, like if you're making a movie, you want to be memorable, you know, and it's like you left the theater singing it, and look all these years later, everyone hates it, but it's a love-hate thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, they didn't even need supernatural stuff. They could have just had that song playing and it would have killed people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
It would have been like,
I think if you
that
listen-
wants to happen, and people would just be killing themselves.
Yeah, I think if you listen to it long enough, snakes and shit would just start coming out of your orifices.
Yeah, just tie them down, put some headphones on them, and just watch them go insane. That's a torture porn right there.
Yeah, that's a good torture thing. Yeah. Screw waterboarding. Start playing the Halloween 3.
Of course, the man whose power's in his mustache.
There he is.
Oh my god.
Atkins.
It's Atkins time.
There's the man.
Mustache for years.
Very underrated actor.
I think
That's what a man looks
He had a
like.
mustache. He was
That's
in
what a man
Creep Show. He was
looks
the
so
asshole dad in Creep Show, and he had no mustache.
And he had no power.
And he had no power then, exactly. Now, however, machismo maximized.
I feel like I'm losing my Y chromosome just by watching
Yeah,
it.
I know.
Yeah, Tom Atkins tends to do that too.
Yeah. That's what a real man looks
There's
like.
a T-shirt out there that says Atkins on it. Have you guys seen that? It's like a T-shirt. It's just like a line drawing of him, and it says like Atkins on the
I
back.
That's the one that says "Thrill Me." I've seen that
I
one.
will be buying that. I will be buying that shirt.
It's genius. It's genius.
Brilliant. Awesome.
And I like Nancy Loomis here is
Yeah.
in a much different role than she was in
Yeah.
Halloween.
I also love how Tom Atkins he looks like a normal guy. I mean, you don't see that nowadays in films. There's a star like him.
He's not
Where
much of a doctor, though.
You relate more to him because, hey, you know, he's more realistic in that
He knows
way.
how
He doesn't look
women
he doesn't look
work
like a
from
supermodel.
experience.
You know? He doesn't look like Channing Tatum.
I'm a doctor, but I'm going to run off to Nowheresville with this bimbo and bang her for a couple of days. It's cool because I'm Atkins, you know?
Well, he's got to figure out how a woman works. 100%.
It's all research.
Is
He's
that
gonna
like
grab a
research?
six-
All research.
And then
Is that
marketing
the actor
and
from Husky Bear and like Starsky and Hutch?
But this guy has a small part, and I like him. In a lot of these movies, these guys have these small parts. They capture my eye for some reason. Just
Yeah.
they have a personality. You don't see a lot of that in movies. Even Superman characters have personality.
Even though Carpenter didn't direct this, he still had a lot to do with it, and he
Oh,
had a
definitely.
stable of actors that were.
Tommy Lee
He has
Wallace,
that feel.
you know, he was a huge protege of John. So, you know, it does look a lot like a Carpenter film.
I think for that reason alone, it probably would have made its mark even without the Halloween name.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there was a legion of guys like me who loved John Carpenter films. We loved The Fog, we loved The Thing, we loved Halloween, and whatever his new film was, we'd go see it just because it was a John Carpenter film. So
yeah.
Even if they dropped the Halloween part, it still would have been, you know, semi-successal. Maybe not as, but...
Yeah.
Well, I think at that point,
Mike,
I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Basically, I mean, Michael was dead at the end of part 2. You know, so I think the thinking was, well, we're going to make another movie, and nobody thought to even make another Michael movie. And I think it made perfect sense at that time. I think now it wouldn't make any sense at all. The first thing you want, all the rules of horror movies are established. So, you know, I think that was the thinking, was we have to make another movie. We're in a position to make another movie, but it can't be Michael because he's dead. Burned to death.
Yeah.
When I first heard of that concept, the idea that it was supposed to be like a different Halloween tale, maybe every year, every 2 years or whatever, I thought that was the greatest idea ever.
I think that is great.
That is a wonderful idea.
They're doing it now. They're doing it
Tales
now
of Halloween. Yeah, with something like that. I hope Tales of Halloween is a hit.
But,
we can have
but
more
I do think
like that every year.
I do think B Movie Mike, or someone said it best last week, if there was not a Halloween 2, like if Halloween 2 was this, and it's like we're going to do something different every time, maybe people would have gotten used to the idea.
Yeah.
If you had Halloween 2, although technically, if you want to goof on people, this does have Michael Myers on the TV.
It does. He's on the
so
TV.
you say it does have Michael Myers.
He
so
is in it. He's on the TV in the bar.
But with Halloween 2 and the way the slasher boom was at this time, maybe if Halloween 2 was Halloween 3, maybe people would have gotten used to the idea, because it's not called the Michael Myers Chronicles.
Yeah.
It's called the Files of Michael Myers. It's called Halloween. It could be different each time, but I think with Halloween 2, because how many Friday the 13th films have been by this time, and it was little differences, but not.
I think
different like
I don't know. Halloween 3 I think is a hard sell either way, because of its concept, because of its you know, the whole idea behind it. It's not really the fastest paced type of horror film. It's not really a slasher. It's got sci-fi elements. It's kind of like a Twilight Zone story. So, yeah, I think it would have been a hard sell regardless, but I think it would have found its audience.
By the way, I really like this scene.
I love it.
Yeah,
this one really stuck out to me, how brutal it was. I was like, ooh, ow, and I've broken my nose because I got hit by a car and my face hit the pavement, so I know what that feels like. So I'm just like, ow. Ooh. And it didn't need to be gory there. There's not really a lot of blood. There's a little bit there, but it's just subtle, but still effective.
It's just
what an awful
idea of it, man.
It's not just a gouge down; it's a pull up as well.
Pull part of your nose off. Like, that is an awful way to go. And then I'll wipe my hands out of the fucking.
I know. He's just like, what? Can you imagine the person who's gonna clean the curtain? You know, they go. What are they?
I guess it's
one of those magic erasers for that right there.
Mr. Clean that blood off.
They work in a hospital. They clean up blood and puke and urine and feces every day.
They probably wouldn't think anything of it. They'd be like, somebody bled on the curtains again.
Although it's weird that he cared so much to wipe his hands when A, he's an android.
He has gloves.
And B, he's going to walk outside and kill himself anyway.
I know, he has gloves.
It's not like he's going to care.
He's a robot. He doesn't have any fingerprints.
He's the druid robot. They're a little bit more polite.
I guess he wanted his hands clean when he killed himself.
He's a germaphobe robot.
Mike, let me ask you, Mike, because you said you saw the film in the theater. Do you remember what the reaction was in the theater amongst the people?
Well, they seemed to enjoy it for what it was. because it came out in October. It was a Halloween type thing. But all of the fans of the Michael Myers Halloween, they were disappointed, of course. Some of them were, that sucked. There was no Michael Myers. That's not what I wanted. Some, like me, they enjoyed the visuals and they enjoyed the Atkins. How can you not like it? It's great. But it wasn't what we were wanting, because by then I think they were working on Friday the 13th Part 3. So we working, and so we're thinking, okay, they already made Halloween 2. How are they going to bring Michael back? They keep bringing Jason back by this time, and that worked against them. And like Rambo had said earlier, maybe if this had been Halloween 2, if they went with the anthology idea right away instead of waiting to the third film, people might have bought into it, or it may have fell on its ass. We don't know. Without Michael Myers, it may have been nothing.
I don't
maybe part 3 they'd have brought him back, but who knows?
Maybe.
I don't think it's an anthology. I mean, if it's just one story, I don't consider one story an anthology. To me, an anthology is like multiple stories in one film.
Right, but these were different movies in the same
Anthology series.
The movies themselves were the one story. It was Halloween was the title. Every year a new Halloween movie would come out, be a different story.
Yeah, I think it was the Ghosts was the one they were intending on doing, something to do with ghosts. With if this was a hit, it would have been a ghost story by John Carpenter. So.
But I always liked this movie. I was disappointed because of no Michael Myers, but it was good enough on its own that
I would love to see that.
It's a great story. I mean, it's like the more you watch it, I was going to say the more you watch it, the better it gets. But actually, the more you watch it, it doesn't make any sense.
I was going to say,
it's a half-baked plan. It's like they're going to kill the kids.
I love it because it's so. You're right. It's so absurd, but at the same time, it's scary to me just because the whole idea that somebody's this nuts enough with enough power and the ability to be able to kill all of these kids on Halloween,
right?
And to end up corrupting them so much is just terrifying to me. And it's a film that stands out from the rest of all these other type of horror films, especially nowadays, because we're not going to kill the kids. We can't do that. That's not allowed, it seems like, most of the time nowadays, except for maybe something like Cooties. But, this is pretty ballsy, and I love that about it.
Yeah, you have to assume at the end of the movie that most kids didn't turn their TVs off, we're streaming, and it's like, turn it off. You just have to know that the guy did it, succeeded, and, It's really grim, but maybe the fact that it is so outlandish and so crazy, it makes it okay. It's not mean-spirited. It's just a really good horror story.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if someone were to make it today, they could make it really grim and really mean.
Yeah.
And, and it's that kids are dying. Like what you're saying. Yeah. I agree with you. And you say like, nobody does that. And this series, it keeps reinventing things. Like, all right, the original Halloween was the original Halloween, right? It ushered in modern horror. Halloween 2, really, they weren't doing sequels back then. I mean,
no.
I don't know if Halloween 2 was the first horror sequel. Maybe it was Friday the 13th.
I think they came around the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's sort of like pioneering in that way. And then Michael died, so they came up with this anthology idea, yearly anthology, which American Horror Story is kind of doing on television right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's many episodes, but it's an anthology series. So one could look back at Halloween 3 and say, well, that was the catalyst for that. Like it tried to do that back in 1980. What was the year of this film? 83, 81?
83, I think, is when Halloween 3 came out. Yeah. 82. 82.
It was a good year.
It was a good year, right? But it's like it's like they tried to do the yearly anthology thing in a movie format back in 1982, and then it didn't work. So then they got Michael back and started the series over, and then Jamie Lee returned two episodes later. It kept reinventing itself and shaping the genre. Friday the 13th did not do any of that. It was just like, let's make the next movie. There was nothing groundbreaking about that series other than its
I thought Part 6, I thought Jason Lives was pretty groundbreaking in its whole tongue-in-cheek meta aspect of it. It was the first slasher in a franchise like that to really poke fun at its.
Had some screamisms about it.
I was going to say they kind of try with Part 5.
Well, I would say maybe Part 5.
That's terrible.
I like Part 5.
You asked me what I thought of Halloween 3.
Yeah.
Halloween 5 pissed me. I mean, Friday the 13th 5 pissed me off way more than Halloween 3. Just because.
Here. I think we get the Michael Myers cameo soon. I think.
No.
Yeah.
But
Well, you made a great point,
Go ahead.
Anthony.
Yeah.
You made a great point, Anthony, in saying that, because, I mean, really, when you think about Halloween 3, it is a pretty bleak film, and it ends, on a fairly dark tone, but it's not,
See, there he is. There he is.
it's not a dark, film.
Technically.
He's in the movie.
Yeah, what you guys were saying, the thing with, well, first off, I deal with Anthony's saying there is stuff that doesn't make sense. Like, Atkins has so much power because of his mustache. The TV stations and turn the TV stations off at the end. Like, they should have turned off. And there's only 3 stations, by the way.
The program director's going to take a call from some guy in a gas station. He's gonna turn off your commercial. You go fuck yourself, buddy. Click. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, you have to assume the guy. Yeah, a lot of kids died that night.
And there's only 3 TV stations apparently.
Yeah.
And they don't just die. So here's the thing. We're going to see the scene later with all the snakes and everything.
Yeah.
But you kind of wonder, like, why the snakes? Like, if they could, if it's not like
The movie is just batshit crazy.
It's insanity. It's craziness.
You have to picture this world of like all these kids suddenly dying in front of their dropping like flies in front of their televisions, not just dead, but now there's snakes and bugs and everything else running around. So it's almost like Cochran wants this world of like insects and snakes, and reptiles to take over. I mean, so
Well, think about it. Those are things that are associated with Halloween. Snakes and creepy crawlies and bugs and things like that. So that adds to the whole, Halloween feel and the atmosphere of the movie. And I love Cochran's line later where he says, play a trick on the children. It's just he's so nonchalant about it. He's like an evil Willy Wonka.
he really is, and I
That
think
is incredible.
greatest villains I've ever seen. Because to play that kind of role, you got to like sell it. You have to sell it. And he wasn't cheesy. He was really
he was
really
very creepy
Sold
and
it,
eerie. Yeah.
Terrifying.
That was terrible.
And Gene Wilder was pretty creepy in Willy Wonka. That whole scene in the where they go through the tunnel and stuff like that.
Wait, stop.
I think the author of Willy Wonka was a horror novelist, if I'm not mistaken. The guy who wrote Willy Wonka was a horror novelist.
Yeah.
Look that up.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why a lot of horror fans love Wonka.
I was just noticing how young she looks in HD and how old Atkins looks in HD.
How unlikely it would be for them to get together.
Yeah.
Stacey Nelkin looks like Jennifer Beals to me from Flashdance.
That kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like now, wish
Well,
I could
I
tone
have
down the
to
definition
Stacey
of this.
Nelkin pour some water on her.
So what freaks me out about her character is after you get to the end of the movie and we find out her character arc, as it were, when did this happen?
Yeah, that's one part of the plot that even I'm like, what?
She would have to have been that way the whole. Otherwise, he works really fast at building replicas.
Yeah.
That was
He's got her held prisoner for like 2 hours.
Anatomically correct.
Whether or not
in
he's
the
banging
movie.
robot pussy or not.
But here's the thing, though.
If you get to that point in the movie, but if you get to that point in the movie and you're expecting realism at that point in the movie,
I'm not. I'm not. It's just something that I noticed.
I would have to
I can deal with
assume
it.
it's when they were separated.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she sucks at her job.
That's what I always assumed.
She's throwing all these explosives, and she's just staring there watching like, that's cool, go ahead, blow it up. Even though you're supposed to be stopping them, she waits until it's dead and
I
gone.
love this countdown
tries to
aspect of the film. I love that. Where they count down the days to Halloween.
9 more days till Halloween.
was
It's a great build-up.
Was Halloween 3 any of you guys' first Halloween experience? Or first Halloween movie?
It was actually mine. First Halloween I saw all the way through, like I was saying. I saw the first film, parts of it, on Bravo one night, but I didn't see all of it. I only saw the end. And then, I saw Halloween 3, and I think 5. 5 sucked. I even thought 5 sucked even after I saw Halloween 3. But yeah, it was. That's a big reason why. I don't know. First Halloween film I saw all the way through. So.
Okay.
Okay. So what's your
Go ahead,
favorite
Andrew.
Halloween movie? Is this anyone's favorite Halloween movie?
Ooh, that's tough. I
It's-
love the first film a lot. This is
I
one of my
gotta say OG
favorite
for me.
films dealing with the holiday of Halloween. I can say that. It's one of my favorite films to watch every Halloween because it's just so perfect for this holiday.
I can't
One of
imagine
my
anybody.
favorites, but not my favorite.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody saying Halloween 3 would be their favorite Halloween film. I can definitely see people saying that they, at this point, that they really like it. But
Yeah.
I can see that. I mean, the first one I saw was Halloween 2, and that's my favorite. But this is one of my favorites, and I actually like this more than the first one. And I like the first one a lot.
oh wow,
But this one,
wow.
I think because the first one, everybody always talks about it,
Yeah.
and for good reason. But this one, no one talks about it, and I lean towards those because they're kind of the gems that you find.
Yeah. The
and you
diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, you appreciate more. And just because something's different doesn't mean it's good, but also just because it's different doesn't mean it sucks. And I think this is a good example of it being different, but just really interesting and ballsy with its gore and its score. And like Halloween 2 is my first, so that's my favorite. But this one, I appreciate what it tried to do. That's not always the case, but I appreciate what Tommy Lee Wallace and John Carpenter were doing. And again, the first one, everyone loves it. It gets this acclaim, deservedly so.
Yeah.
But this one, I don't know, for films like I hated, but that I like, for some reason, I tend to gravitate to those more. I know it's just my weird mind state, like a lot of movies I love.
I'm with you, Matt, in a lot of ways. I feel I root for the underdog. I love rooting for the underdog.
Maybe
And
that's why.
this is definitely the underdog, one of the underdogs.
And those gas prices are shitty.
I was
gonna
always
say those are
shocked.
a little high. Aren't they?
And man, look at that jacket she's got. Clear pockets.
Well, they are in
what is the point of
California.
that?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Let me ask you guys this, this is a really serious question. Okay, you've got Michael Myers in one corner. You've got Tom Atkins in the other. Who's coming out on top?
Atkins.
I would have to say Bruce Lee.
Neither one can die. I mean, neither one can die. So,
Bruce Lee would come out of his hibernation and come back and take everybody's own.
I mean, Halloween 6 is an example of a Halloween film that's different, but not good in my opinion.
But
Like,
again,
this is different, but I think it's a good difference, and it's well written, and it's well made, and it's a good, creepy, low key, crazy Halloween.
I kind of agree with Cole on Halloween 6. I shouldn't like it, but I really do.
I hate Halloween 6. I hate
I
both
love both
cuts.
versions. I love both versions of Halloween.
Yeah, I shouldn't, but I do.
Here comes this, couple.
I could never get into Halloween 6
I
either
don't
version.
care for either version myself.
This family's so annoying that you're like, man,
But that's the interesting thing, is it's all subjective. Every movie I can think of has a fan, and every movie I can think of has a hater.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that sounds stupid, but I did Halloween 6 was fucking...
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd rather talk about this movie.
Well, it's true, man. There's no such thing as a movie that everyone loves, and there's no such thing as a movie that everyone hates.
But see, that kid shouldn't have given the middle finger to you don't pay for it. He pays for it later on.
He's already dead.
Yeah.
You gotta wrap
His
the
only
corner
jacket
and
is
just wrap
style.
it.
That bike is
Yeah.
awesome.
As soon as this family shows up, they're dead meat.
Dead kid walking.
I like her
Ride
too.
him.
I've always wanted to read the original script that the guy that did the
Nigel Kneale,
Quatermass.
I think. Yeah, Nigel
Yeah.
Kneale did Quatermass.
Yeah.
Yeah, he disowned this
'cause
film for some
Carpenter
reason.
said that. Yeah, Carpenter said that, or Tommy Lee Wallace said that his script was even darker and bleaker. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's getting
he
darker
basically,
and bleaker.
Nigel Kneale turned over something really dark, and it was like what Tommy said when we talked to us for the documentary was that it was really grim, but it wasn't what Dino De Laurentiis wanted, which was gore and bodies, and they were competing with Friday the 13th, and I would have loved to have seen Nigel Kneale's original script. I mean, I love Halloween 3, but I would just love to have gotten my hands on it. It's got to be out there somewhere. I mean, someone's got to have it.
Can you see why he disowned the film because of that? Because I think he's disowned the film pretty much. He tried to change his name, take his name off the film. So
yeah, it basically wanted his name taken off it, which is always a sad thing because that happens to a lot of writers. Like they always get rewritten. The studios they just rewrite you.
That's got to be a problem with being a screenwriter.
It says I want my name off it.
Yeah, it's got to suck.
That's where you
got to detach yourself from the material and cash the check if you want to, you succeed in that business. You can't marry yourself to the material.
Sucks because you're writing a story. You're writing your own, like it'd be as if you were writing a novel.
Yeah, but once you sell it, it's not yours anymore.
Well, I know, but it'd be like if you wrote the novel and then somebody just ended up just changing it completely and then published their version of your novel. That doesn't happen very often with novels.
I don't think a director hates anything more than a writer on set.
Yeah.
Filmmaking is a very collaborative effort, I mean, it's the director takes like most of the credit, but they're usually working with the script written by someone else.
Definitely. Yeah, and sometimes they write it on the set, and that's crazy.
And the studio financing it, they've got usually the final say. I mean, it's like someone's crunching numbers and they know what's hot, and it's like if there isn't a body count or a body somebody dying every 10 minutes, they order it. The thing about a lot of writer like Nigel Kneale comes across as a writer who was not a screenplay writer. He wasn't writing horror movies. And so it must have been very painful for him to have to watch this process blow up in his face, especially when the producers came after him because Carpenter was a fan of his work. So it was like, you're sitting around, he's sitting at home, he gets a phone call from Carpenter and says, "Hey, I love your work. I'm John Carpenter. Let's work together." And then it all gets rewritten. I mean, it must have been awful for him. So.
Yeah. Well, he'd been burned by Hollywood before, is what Tommy Lee Wallace said too, didn't he?
I believe so. Yeah. Well, and and you're right. I forgot who said it, but you have to just be willing to cash the check. You have to play the game or go home. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
Right. Because a lot of times they'll buy a script if it has an idea that they like, and they don't want to have to pay you for using it later, so they'll just buy the script, and then they'll go write the story they want to write based on your concept, and that way they don't have to worry about you suing them later. But yet they take what you wrote and just totally start chucking out sentences and doing what they want to.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very strange because since we're talking about Halloween, on the counter for Halloween 4, the writer, Alan B. McElroy, says the same thing. He's like, just because the name is on it doesn't mean they're the ones who wrote it. So all sorts of reshoots, re-edits, done by committee.
It's all about getting the check and getting your name in the credits.
Yeah.
That's why people are going to, oh yeah, your name was on that one movie. What do you got? You got another one? And that's how we keep rolling.
Yeah.
I think John Carpenter said that when he produced the Fog remake. He's like, I just cashed the check.
Yeah. He's that right now. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Exactly.
He's still bitter about the thing, and I don't blame him.
Let me ask you guys a question. Are you happy they brought Michael back in Part 4 and made Part 4 or 5 with all the sequels left that they made had Michael in it? I'd say maybe H2O and parts of Halloween 4 were really good. I love all the Halloween movies. One of my least favorites is 6. I love Marianne Hagen in it. I think she's fantastic. I think she was cast so perfectly. But the concept of Michael having sex with his niece, and it's like, it was like, are you kidding me?
Incest, pushing the line.
He's like 100 pounds too heavy, and it's like, Michael looks like he's been eating donuts.
Well, they kept him well. Those Druids kept him well.
Right,
compared to what he looked like in Part 5, Part 6 was kind of an improvement.
Well,
Part 5, Michael Myers cries.
In Part 5, he looked like some guy that went to a costume shop and stole a $2 imitation costume of Michael Myers and then started walking around scaring people. It was
Well,
Also, it's directed by a jerk off, so.
my answer to that is I like Halloween 4. I like the way it ended. Maybe if they kept that way. But when 5, you're doing a movie.
Oh,
like
one of my
a year
favorite kills
later,
coming up.
and you're
That
like,
was a great
you know
kill.
what? Let's add a man in black. And even during shooting, we don't know what it is. It's just a man in black, and we don't even know where it's going to be. We'll just add it in there.
Maybe they saw
Man.
Halloween 3. They're like, hey, these cute
Gotta
guys.
watch this scene. This scene is great.
What was that?
And there's
Yeah.
Michael Myers. He's pulling his head off.
Yeah, I was
He's Warlock.
admiring.
Dick Warlock.
Yeah.
Great.
So Michael did kill somebody.
True.
I think it was this kill right here that made me fall in love with the movie when I first saw it. I was just like, that is fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
That is an awesome kill. He rips his head off. I mean,
Love-
fucking
love
design
it.
for that.
Love at first geyser.
I like how he said, I ain't got no diseases when he wanted to take a swig of that liquor that Atkins had bought. It's like, is this back when they thought AIDS was still spread by saliva?
Tuberculosis, mainly, I would imagine.
I agree with Matt. I like Halloween 4 a lot, but it's a bittersweet thing with Halloween 4 and the films that came after it, The Return of Michael Myers. Because it's a good setup. You got Ellie Cornell. I liked her character. You got Daniel Harris. I like the way it continued the legacy with the girl at the end. It was a good. When I first saw it, it completely took me for a loop. The ending of that film.
Right. It was a big
But
surprise. Yeah.
Part 5, it just ignores it, and then it just really got a bad director, and then the screenplay doesn't make any sense, and then Part 5 just ended up causing a chain reaction that just fucked the franchise up beyond belief, and then H2O had to be like, that never happened, in order to, resurrect it.
I would say, like, I've often said that I would have been happy with just Halloween, Halloween 2, and Halloween H2O. I think those 3 movies go together very well. And there's no reason you couldn't have had H2O if they'd gone with the anthology route, because it was so long after they could have said, well, let's explore that a little bit more, and they could have still done H2O. There's no reason to skip it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So personally, for me, I do like, Halloween 4, and I have a soft spot for 6 too, but I would have liked to have seen the idea of a different movie every year. And I could have skipped all that stuff, but that's just me.
John Carpenter's Ghost Story. That's what he wanted to do for that's what the idea was. If this is a hit, John Carpenter, produced, Ghost Story. I mean, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I like The Fog a lot, but it would have been an even more of a ghost story than The Fog was.
I think they had to bring back Michael for Halloween 4.
Yeah.
They just had to. And I like Halloween 4 a lot. I have a soft spot for Halloween 5 because I used to rent them together all the time as a kid. And I like 6, but I can totally understand. What was that, Anthony?
I was just saying, I love Halloween 5. And the thing is, I think one of the characters we haven't mentioned yet is Donald Pleasance, who I think, for me, I think there's 3 kinds of Halloween fans. You either identify with Laurie, Michael, or Loomis. I've just found that. It's like, and I think I identified, the character I liked the most, or I was with, was Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
I love this man who was it was so tortured knowing this madman, what he was capable of, and no one ever believed him, and by the time Part 6 comes around, he's roaming into town, people still don't believe him, and it's like, if you see Loomis turn the corner, you better, and you live in Haddonfield, that's it, the shit's gonna hit the fan, leave, move.
Here comes this, just because he's Atkins, that's why.
Right.
That's it.
Just because.
Which I don't get. I don't get that. Is it like? I think they're from
he's
two
Tom
different
Atkins.
worlds.
You don't have to get it. Look at the hair at the back.
You don't have to get it. He's the Atkins.
You don't have to understand.
So she's still human at this
Could
point,
just be
right?
an anatomical.
We don't know. We don't know.
I would hope she would be, like I was saying earlier, I mean, even though, you would think the Atkins would know whether or not he's fucking a robot.
He would have been able to tell.
She's showing much more emotion.
She could have been really well made.
He would have been able to tell.
Yeah.
He would have been able to tell.
And crazy enough about Halloween 4 is that Halloween 3 made just about as much as Halloween 4. Halloween 4 really wasn't a huge hit. It ended up making pretty much around the same profit as Halloween 3 did.
It was number 1 at the box office.
It was number 1. I think for 2 weeks. Yeah.
It might have
Like
been.
total, I'm talking total profit. From its run, domestic run,
Right.
it made the same amount of money.
Just the fact that it was #1 at the box office for 2 straight weeks, that let them know, okay, you guys really wanted to see Michael back. Let's rush for
Like a $5 million weekend and get #1.
Plus, I think word of mouth.
Like it is today.
Yeah.
Plus, it would depend on word of mouth because Halloween 3 was ripped to shreds. But if we tried to
They
do
really
another
hyped
one,
the return of Michael Myers, so there was a lot of us that were.
Yeah. It's kind of a sign of the times, too, like in these early 80s movies where you just have a sex scene. Just throw in the sex scene.
I'm
Doesn't matter
fine
if
with
it doesn't
that.
make any sense in the plot line. Just
I
throw
like that. It should be in more movies today.
I'm
you ask
fine
a
with that,
woman-
too. I'm fine with that, too.
When you
Okay,
ask
this
a woman
scene-
how
this
old
I'm not
are you,
complaining. I'm just saying it's a sign of the times.
When I was a kid, this scene freaked me out. This was the scene.
Yeah, this one,
This-
I hate spiders and stuff, and the
Oh
idea
my
of
gosh.
coming out of your mouth. Yeah.
This is a great scene, yeah. I remember I'd only seen the film on television, and when I first saw the uncut version on video, after seeing the film on television numerous times, this part like blew me away. I was like, wow. 'Cause of
Yeah,
course
this
was
scene made
always
me
cut
go
out on
crazy. I
television.
was like, wow. I was like, this is so messed up. Like, I felt so bad for her.
Although I'm
Why
wondering,
she
what
even
is,
does
that's
this.
what you get.
what is
I
she
know,
doing?
look at these circuits.
Yeah, that's the same thing. It's a little, okay, we gotta have something to happen. Who cares? Said like Atkins just said. Why does that happen? Who cares?
Oh, this is a really.
It's like I'm inside of you. I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Oh. And her eyes, the color of her eyes, are like
super
orange.
No, the thing that's awful about it is that she's not dead. You
Yeah.
know,
No.
it's like she's just gonna lay there
Ugh.
and suffer until.
It's a cricket or something. It's not a spider, but it looks like a spider.
I don't know what it is. It's gross.
I know, what is that thing? I don't even know what it is.
It reminds me
It's a cave
of.
cricket.
Has anyone seen this movie called The Believers? Have you seen that scene where Helen Shaver, she has such growth in her face, and then all these spiders pop out of it? Yeah, that's what it kind of reminds me of. That was insanely.
Well, it's a wonder that this. Atkins.
Atkins.
Oh,
I am now.
excuse me, guys. I gotta go to the
I
bathroom.
can't see.
I'm glad I wasn't watching this on the IMAX.
Officially gay. That was awesome.
I guess the Sausage Factory seal of approval.
Yeah.
Wish you had an ass as fine as Atkins.
Yeah.
Atkins
I
ass.
Most nudity we've seen so far.
That will
Adelson,
be.
keep your pants on, man. You ain't the Atkins.
You better do some
It's a-
squats.
It's a wonder this young lady's head didn't crack open and stuff come out while she was slow.
Just crack open like a Cadbury egg and just. Right
Well,
there.
soon that will be our mascot, folks.
Oh my god.
Sausage Factory.
That just happened.
That's what happens when Atkins arrives.
It's not suspicious at all that somebody dies in the motel and the president of the corporation shows up to say, "Hey, everybody, everything's fine."
Yeah.
Hey, it's the guy from RoboCop.
That nothing could possibly be.
Nothing to see here.
It
Yeah.
happens
Well,
every
it's
day.
It's the old man.
O'Hurley had some power too. There was some O'Hurley power going on here too.
Yeah. He was also a couple years later. It was crazy. He played Greg, right, in Last Starfighter, which I always thought was so
Oh,
crazy that after this he would play that character.
I love Dan O'Hurley. Dan O'Hurley's one of the highlights of this movie for me.
Yeah.
I just love his performance because he's so smiley and he's just and then
it's
he's
like his precursor
"Kill
to
them
the
all."
old man from RoboCop. It's like I wonder if Paul Verhoeven
right,
saw
right.
this and was like, I need him to play the old man on the consumer products. I need Colonel Cochran to run this company.
And of course, we gotta mention the body snatchers influence, which I thought was
And
nice touch.
Oh, of course.
Quartermass influence as well.
Centennial.
Nigel Kneale.
No doubt.
This was Tommy Lee Wallace calls this a pod movie, whereas the first two Halloweens were knife movies. This is a pod movie.
Interesting.
Well, and we were talking about expectations for this movie before. I actually went back and I was watching some of the trailers for the movie to try and see like how they were selling it and promoting it back in the day. And of course, none of this this is about they alluded in no way, shape, or form that Michael Myers was not in this Halloween and that this was not a direct sequel. It was just like eyes and a mask and
yeah, it was just the witch. It's just the witch. I remember, yeah, those trailers. The witch. That's it. Season of the Witch. Like, you thought it was about a witch. That's what you thought. You didn't think it was a body snatching thing or a sci-fi thing with Stonehenge and masks.
Mm-hmm.
You see the trailer, and you're like, oh, it's a witch, an evil witch. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
And like Anthony said, there was no internet back in the day. There was no message boards. You know, you walked into a movie cold unless there was just good old-fashioned word of mouth. And I mean,
well, for my first viewing of the movie, I mean, this was like, I want to say 98, and I had no idea even then. So anyway, short story, I guess. I got my buddies together. We were gonna have a movie night. And I picked this movie, and a couple of them hadn't seen a Halloween beforehand. So I remember I stood up before I started it, and I explained Halloween to them. I explained, you know, how it all works.
Oh, great!
Oh, yeah. So anyway, so I do this whole thing, and I'm like, Michael, it's so scary. Like, you just see him sometimes. And, like, I did this whole thing. And then I hit play on the friggin' VCR, and this movie comes on.
Trust me, guys. Michael's coming.
They just looked at me and they were like, "You're not allowed to rent a movie for a month. Like, you're out. There are Druid robots.
Get the fuck out of here. There's no Michael Myers.
What is going on?" And I didn't like this movie. You know what? I'm one of the converts. I watched this movie and I was like, "I don't like this. This is stupid. Where's Michael?" And it was years later, being in the horror community now on the internet and things like that, like Dead Pit and you know, YouTube and all this stuff, that all people, I'm like, people really like this movie. I really didn't give it a chance, maybe. And as that went, I eventually watched it again. And I've only seen this movie like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And I've grown to like it, even though I think it's totally batshit crazy.
I've probably seen Halloween 3 dozens of times, if not more than that. Yeah.
Is this a Halloween? This is a question actually from one of our viewers, Carolyn Bajess. I think is how you spell that or pronounce that last name. I apologize if I butchered it. But is Halloween 3 one of those go-to Halloween movies that you guys watch every year?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, yeah, totally. For me, it definitely is.
Every Halloween,
every October,
you
I
know,
gotta watch it
factory release, and I watch it now. I mean, I like this movie, but it took me a while.
Yeah, I watch it once a year. I do, I don't think I've ever actually seen it on television though. Like, I always watch it on DVD. The other Halloween movies, like AMC, always has Part 4 and 5, and whenever I see a Halloween movie, I watch it. I just have to stop and watch it because I just love them so much. But I don't think I've ever seen Halloween 3. They must, at some point, they must have played Halloween 3.
I think AMC is airing Halloween 3
they used to play it on TV.
Halloween this year. They're just not doing it before. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it was actually on TV, and I can vividly remember watching it and thinking, well, Michael's coming, and he'll show up sooner or later, won't he? And then the movie ends, and it's just like, well, what the hell? What did I just watch?
So let me ask you guys, do you
Yeah,
think it would have made a difference if they just called it Halloween Season of the Witch instead of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch? I think that's where they went wrong.
I don't think the title mattered. Like, it was the fact that they were like, this is a sequel to these other 2 movies you watched that have had the same characters and the same story.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you know, that's the. I mean, yeah, sure, okay, sorry. If they just called it Season of the Witch, it would be its own movie. But putting Halloween in front of it, it didn't matter. It was Halloween 3, I guess.
I think if they call it Halloween Season of the Witch, there would have been people be like, why is Halloween part of this? Are they trying to...
Yeah.
There would have been some type of question of why are they using a title that was used before, and maybe they wouldn't make the connection, but maybe word of mouth would have been like, well, wait a minute, John Carpenter's involved with this somehow, and yet he did a film called Halloween, and I think maybe not right from the get-go, but maybe trickling down, they'd be like, well, wait a minute, what's this about? It seemed like a film that was, no matter what you did.
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah,
I think the only way that it would have worked back in the day was if it had no link to Halloween at all. If it was just Season of the Witch or something.
Better make sure those
masks
masks go through final processing.
That was actually shot in Dante's studio, right?
What's your favorite mask out of the 3 masks?
I go with the parts of the skull.
I
like
would have bought
the
the
witch.
skull. I think I would have bought the skull.
The skull.
I would have to go with the pumpkin.
I like the
Oh,
pumpkin.
I would have bought the skull, but I liked the witch. I think I like the witch the best.
They're all
Yeah,
great.
that's
I mean,
great.
think about it. Like they're all three of them are really great.
Yeah.
I've
Can
seen
you
so many
imagine being
masks.
able to buy them at the store? Like, they're pretty awesome masks. Like, if I was a
Yeah.
kid and they were an option, yeah, I
Back
would've been
then,
all
man,
over it.
I don't remember masks.
I
being
love
as-
this
as
part of
cool
it,
as they
like
are
where
now.
you see the automaton type stuff. It's like a precursor to kind of what you.
This is a stupid
See you later.
question, but do they make these masks nowadays? They do.
I think
Trick or
yeah,
treat
they're
studio.
limited replicas, like really
I
pricey, expensive Dom
I wasn't
Post,
sure I had to.
you
You know,
know.
it's funny. The day that we interviewed Tommy Wallace was at his house, and he goes, "Hold on a second," and he leaves, and he comes back with a box, and he opens it up, and there's these masks in there
Yeah.
from the movie, and we were just like, our jaws were on the ground, like, because these weren't bootleg, you know, these weren't
Yeah.
like they were the masks, and
Mhm.
and a lot of them were
wow.
broken down. A lot of them had like rips and stuff in them.
Yeah.
So I think one of the guys on our crew helped him, hooked him up with some mask maker. I don't know, whatever.
It was
And
Dom Post, I think.
who was it?
It might have been Dom Post Studios. I remember hearing something about Dom Post Studios
I
making
think
replicas.
Tommy actually supplied some masks from his collection that ended up being replicated and everything.
Yeah.
So
Nah.
you can get one of these somewhere. Just go to eBay.
I love
Yeah.
Cool Cochran. It's how he's like the really kind old grandfather, like, and then he comes out of nowhere, and then you're just like, wow.
He's a fucking pagan wizard.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
Trick or Treat Studios has official licensed masks.
oh,
Yeah,
Trick or Treat
that's what I-
Studios. That's who it was. But Dom
That's
Post,
what I
I
was trying
think
to
they
say. Trick or
did
Treat Studios
I think
has
they
some
did the
masks.
masks originally, and I think there were some masks that they made replicas of around the time of the release. Because I remember seeing like ads on an old Fangoria mag or something like that for those type of masks.
There's an awful lot of them in some of these scenes. Like, where did they all end up, I wonder?
Yeah.
You know, they got rats of them going by. Like, makes you kind of wonder.
Well,
You find it
they're
original.
made out of latex, so they'll probably fall apart after all these years. And like the
Yeah.
mask in Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween, it's under the floorboards for how long?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's
Well,
bright as rain.
they shot that sequence in Don Post Studios. I mean, that was how they.
Oh, that
made the
wasn't
masks.
Dom Post. Yeah, Dom Post did
Yeah.
the masks, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
if you think about it, they could kill these guys anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's make it as complicated as possible.
Ooh.
I mean, you only have like 10 cyborgs. If you just grab them and rip
I'm
their
just going
heads
to go with
off.
Tom Atkins from this movie. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even androids fear Tom Atkins.
You damn Skippy, they do.
Damn, Skippy.
Yeah, look how
Did
creepy
you
that
watch
is, man.
Passenger 57 recently?
Not recently, but I do watch that movie a lot.
Always been on black.
Always Dead on Black. That one and what's the other one he did where he's a skydiver? Whenever it's on TV.
Drop Zone.
Yeah, Drop Zone. I watch those
jeez.
every time I see them on TV.
Drop Zone.
Can't help it. Gotta watch
I
them.
love him
Guilty
as
pleasures.
Demolition Man. That's the one I...
Oh, Demolition Man is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
The score here is great. I mean, Alan
That was
Howarth and
fair.
John Carpenter were masters at
Yeah.
creating scores that create mood and atmosphere just all by themselves.
I'm so scared.
Yeah.
Hold me, Tom.
Hold on, let me take a shot of this. All right.
I gotta have another fucking drink.
See, I think she's still human at this point as well.
Yeah.
I guess.
While
She's
she
a
was
much
there,
better
they
robot
go,
than the other dudes. They just stand there like statues.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
Well, I mean,
With
you
sticks
could-
up their asses.
You could make the argument that the only way she could have survived that lovemaking from the Atkins was if she was alive.
Thank you very much. It's like the whole Superman Lois Lane conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah,
wow.
there you go.
We've got an interesting question tweeted at us too, Anthony, from Joseph Perdue. He wants to know all the people from Halloween. I'm guessing who you interviewed for the documentary. Who were the nicest and who were the biggest douchebags you met?
Well, he's not going to answer that one.
It's like, do I want to keep working? Do I still have a job?
You're talking from all the Halloween films.
That's That's a lot of people.
Well, it is like, and nobody was a douchebag. Nobody was really.
Yeah,
There's nobody that we dealt with that.
That's true.
Yeah,
There's no John Peters of the Halloween franchise.
there isn't. No. I'll tell you what though. I didn't realize when we made the documentary that the producers didn't get along. So Joe, do you remember Joe Wolf? Joe Wolf was he was one of the three members of Compass International that was the production company for Halloween. Joe Wolf, Irwin Yablans, and Mustafa Akkad all had strained relationships with each other. Deborah Hill, John Carpenter they hated Mustafa Akkad. So it was like, I didn't know that. I didn't know they all hated each other. So that was eye-opening, because it was kind of sad, because you feel like, from a Halloween fan, I was just a Halloween fan, putting on this convention and then ended up making this documentary. It's kind of like pulling the curtain back and realizing, I'm thinking they're all a big great family and they're all happy, they all hang out together, and it just wasn't the case. I would say Joe Wolf was fantastic. He was such a nice old man. Really, really, I love Joe Wolf. PJ Souls is a friend. She's a friend of mine. We've remained friends all these years. She's phenomenal. I love her to death. Daniel Harris is great. I mean, I'm trying to think of one asshole, and I can't think of anyone.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching. Just throw them all under the bus.
I'm trying here.
This scene right here, I always thought was like, I love the score, and I love the way it's edited, the way it's directed and lit, and it's a chase, but it's like there's not really a lot of action, but I still love it, and there's something about it that just really stands out to me.
That's when they convert it right there.
Yeah.
I do have a question for Anthony. Might be a dumb question, but is there anyone that you wanted to interview but you couldn't get for some reason?
Yeah. There was always someone that we didn't have access to. We wanted to interview Nick Castle.
Oh.
And just couldn't. Tommy Lee Wallace was like, I think he was probably one of our last interviews. I mean, and it's funny because nobody knew who we were. I mean, you have to remember, before the documentary, we did this event. It was called Halloween Returns to Haddonfield, and we brought together all the actors and all the producers and everything from the movies to do a convention. And we invited Tommy Lee Wallace. We invited Nancy. I don't know if it's Keyes or Keys. I always forget how to pronounce her last name. But there were a lot of people that didn't come to the convention because they didn't know who we were. And we kept saying it's a benefit for a children's hospital, and we did. We gave all of our money to a children's hospital. But it wasn't until the Akkads said, okay, we'll help you finish your documentary, I was able to then call them and go, Mustafa Akkad is financing this. And so then we were able to get people on board. Deborah Hill was my only real regret. She was very mean to me on the phone when I called her to ask her to do an interview. She snapped at me. It was not pretty. But I really wish we had a chance to interview her. So.
I remember you telling us that story last time during the original Halloween commentary we did. I remember you telling that story. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just it's like.
It must have been. That was a shock. It had to have been. I can only imagine what was going through your head at that time.
Yeah, I called after hours. I called her office after hours to leave a message. I didn't want to talk to her, and she answered. And I was like, and she just said, like, leave me alone. I've already told you no. I mean, it was really bad. It was really.
Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't me. I realized it wasn't me. It was Mustafa Akkad. She was very angry at him, and so it had nothing to do with me. I didn't know her. She just didn't want to. And I made this big mistake by saying to her in every communication, Mustafa Akkad has endorsed this. And it just every time I said that, right. And see what I mean? Like, I didn't know. None of them got along. So yeah, that was the only real disappointing thing.
But I mean,
I heard an interview.
Go ahead.
I heard an interview with Steph Hutchinson where he said that he almost had Carpenter. Like, Carpenter didn't want to do it, but he talked to Carpenter and he said, this is going to be a different kind of interview, and he almost had him, but then at the last minute he canceled.
Yeah, we were both daily
Doesn't need gore to creep you out here. This is one of those like, what the fuck?
Go ahead, Anthony.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm well aware of that. They said yes, then no, then yes, then no, and then I got a private email from I forgot who it was working for him that said I think her name was Julie. She said don't get your hopes up. It was like me. It was just like who knows. He's in the documentary. We just used footage from another Anchor Bay interview. But you know, I'm just gonna be honest. You know, I wanted to see everyone else. I've seen Carpenter many, many, many times talk about Halloween. So I was more excited about Dominique Othenin-Girard, director of Part 5. You know, I was more excited for all those other interviews. And we didn't get him. We got him on the commentary. But I was excited for everyone else that we were talking to.
What is that? Is that baby food?
It is android goo.
Yeah, that is pretty sick.
Orange juice.
But that's one of the things about 25 Years of Terror. I really give credit to that because I think it was because of 25 Years of Terror that you saw now a renaissance of Never Sleep Again, Crystal Lake Memories.
Oh yeah.
All from 25 Years of Terror, the one on Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
So I haven't talked to you before this because I wasn't on, but I really give credit to that 25 Years of Terror Halloween because I really think it really did start this combustion of people wanting to hear more about these movies and wanting to hear more about these making documentaries and such. So I definitely got to give credit for that.
Thanks,
I do too. I do too.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Seriously, when we had this idea to make it, and we went to Anchor Bay and said it's not going to be a bonus feature; it's going to be its own standalone. They got it right away. They completely saw the market, and you know, that's what happens at conventions, right? All the actors get up there and they talk about their experiences. So we wanted to create, because we had footage, the reason why we made this was because we filmed our convention. So we had proprietary footage of all the guys that played Michael, except for Nick Castle. We had our Halloween 5 panel, our Halloween 6 panel, our producer panel. So we had all this footage, and it's like, hey, let's tell the story of Halloween and how it shaped the entire modern horror genre. So, and you're right. Right after, so when that was over, I went straight to Anchor Bay and said, "Let's do Friday the 13th." And they went, "Okay," and they wired money to me. They wired money into my account. I was like, I've never seen that much money in my account. And then we made that.
Cool.
And so I'm still doing it. I mean, I think the Hellraiser one's gonna be the last one I do. But we did Still Screaming, which was a 90-minute retro on the Scream series. We did the Psycho Legacy, the Crystal Lake, the Crystal Lake one that came out. I gave them the footage. I said, "Go ahead, go make it." You know, I had already done it. I already felt like I did it. So it was nice to see that there was still a demand to add more actors to it. You know, I almost want to go back to the 25 Years of Terror and add the interviewees we didn't get, just so that they're all there, so that you can, have this 3-hour documentary or something. But there are a lot of work.
I love that. I love to see, a Never Sleep Again type, Friday the 13th, Crystal Lake Memories for the Halloween series. That'd be great.
And you don't see these kind of epic retros for Police Academy movies,
No, well,
or,
right.
Maybe you do. I don't know.
I'll be first in line for that.
I love behind the scenes stuff. I do. I love behind the scenes documentaries. It's a big thing for me, and
me too.
Just gotta say thank you for 25 Years of Terror. It was a lot of fun when I saw it, and it's too bad about what happened to Anchor Bay. Pretty soon after, They used to be Scream Factory. They were the pioneers. They used to be the ones that would do that kind of stuff, for the fans.
The Scream is great. I know the guys at Scream Factory, and they're putting out incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They've become basically Anchor Bay. So
here's the Stonehenge.
So I never. How did they get this? That's what I don't understand.
How did they steal the Stonehenge? Yeah.
Magic. Black magic.
Black magic, yes, exactly.
That's all that matters.
Cochran, he's a wizard.
It was voodoo magic.
He's a pagan wizard. He replaced it, and now we have an actual stone from Stonehenge. Actually, you know what? I was just thinking about it, and the snakes make sense now because Druids were serpent worshippers.
Yeah.
I mean, St. Patrick drove this, whatever.
He's explaining
St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland.
You wouldn't believe what we did.
It all comes together.
Well, if you ever have a question, like if something doesn't make sense, it's always thorn. It's the power of thorn. Just
there you go, thorn. You're brilliant.
Thorn works in mysterious ways. That's all.
Exactly.
Whenever you don't have.
Let me just remind everybody watching, if you have questions or comments for us or for Anthony, leave them in the comment section of the video or tweet them at us at TSF Nation, and we'll do some more Q&A stuff, and we may do a quick Q&A at the end of the commentary as well.
There was a Druid connection in the original Halloween, at least in the novelization. There was a Druid connection to the whole curse of the Michael Myers, the Myers clan, the Myers family. And it started in the Druid, with the Druids.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting, seeing this film and then seeing them expand that.
Anything like
that
Celtic, I'm all over that stuff. I think it's fantastic. That's why I think I have a soft spot for 6.
That stuff is pretty fascinating because like this movie and 6 made me go and research the origins of Halloween, and it's pretty dark.
Samhain, yeah. Samhain.
Yeah, Samhain.
Samhain.
Pretty dark.
Here comes this scene, which is just
it's brilliant filmmaking,
iconic craziness, insane.
Well, here I think.
In '82 it must have been shocking. And even more shocking now.
Yeah.
Especially in this politically correct era that we live in.
Maybe it was E.T.'s fault. Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
No, I was just. It's now you know what he's up to when you see this scene. And I think being trapped in that room too makes it scarier because they can't get out. Think about okay. So say you're sitting there on Halloween night and your kid's in front of the TV, and you see them fall over and these snakes. You can at least run out of your house. These guys are just stuck in there.
They're trapped.
Yeah, it's almost like if you're near the kid, the snakes will get you. So if the commercial doesn't get you, and the mask doesn't get you, the snakes and the bugs will get you. So it's like, I think
it's not just
the kids.
That he wanted to kill the kids. He wanted to kill everybody.
He wanted to kill everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
The family dog. Everybody.
But first they have to watch in horror as their child dies. Then they die.
Right,
exactly.
Which makes it more horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those awful dog costumes, they should kill the poor, the poor dog should be put out of its misery. Anyway.
The redheaded android a few minutes ago reminded me that I think didn't Tommy Lee Wallace want all the androids to have red hair?
Because gingers don't have souls.
They don't have
Really?
No, but
I
think
it's story about this kid.
I love that. Don't sit too close. You ruin your eyes, honey.
What was that, Anthony?
Just oblivious to the whole thing. Yeah, I'll tell you something about this kid after the scene. What he said during an interview. I'll after we watch. But I love the sinister look on Cochran there. He's like waiting for he's waiting for the shit to hit the fan.
Waiting to see this shit.
He's laughing.
Yeah.
So surreal.
He gets a real joy out of this shit.
It's because of the music.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rock this kid's head.
Look at the smile on Cochran's face.
Yeah.
Great
wardrobe on those two too, man. Great wardrobe.
Yeah.
I love how she's playing with the rubber grapes.
It's all.
It's crickets. Run.
Crickets, yeah. I thought they were snakes, but
that's pretty scary.
Oh, they come. Here they come. Here they come.
Ooh, that's a big one.
There they are, snakes. Yeah. What the fuck do you do?
Die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the crickets coming out of your dead son's mouth wasn't horrible. It was only horrible until the snakes appeared.
Rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
I've got to say, it's never quite clear what's going on under the mask. Like where does the head turn into a pile of snakes? Is it coming out of the kids? You really don't really know what's going on under the mask.
Yeah.
Like what happened to the kid's head? And I like that. I like that.
Probably create something scarier. Maybe it's more terrifying than.
Yeah, you really don't see what's coming out, but you don't know what happens to the kid, and I think that makes it scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, a snake is crawling into her ear. Ugh.
Ugh.
Right there. I'm not really. Spiders are more freaked out than snakes, but a snake, anything in your ear that's not supposed to be in there, is
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty much
freaky.
This looks greater in HD.
That kid that just went through this.
Yeah.
When we were doing his interview, we asked everyone during the interviews if they thought that horror movies were bad for society, because I had come across 2 instances in the news where teenagers, after seeing Halloween movies, went home and attacked people with butcher knives.
Oh,
so there was this idea that we're going to ask people, we just had it in the question list. Everyone across the board said no, except for Buddy, the little kid that plays Buddy here. And he had become a rabbi, so by the time we were interviewing him, he was a rabbi. And he said he regretted doing this movie because he felt irresponsible. He feels like he's adding to the sort of the bad things in the world, which I found interesting. Like a movie, like this is going to be if that's your perspective and you really truly feel bad about it, there's nothing you can do about it. Because the movie is not yours. Someone else owns it, and people will keep watching it. But that was the one, I would say, negative in the whole interview process. Everyone was very excited to talk about the Halloween films. They were very proud of being part of them. And he was the one that wasn't, but he was still very nice. So
I remember him saying horror movies don't make people murderers, but what if you make one person a murderer? Then you're responsible. Like the movie is responsible, and the people who make the movie are responsible. And
well, I'll tell you what. Out of you have 80 interviews, something like that. 79 other people said the person was nutty to begin with. It was just the thing that there's songs that it's like you don't go watch a Halloween movie become a murderer. You're off kilter already. And
it's like the video game argument, No, I don't buy that.
Well, and imagine this: how many off kilter, sick people out there get to live out their bloody fantasies through these horror movies instead of literally getting a knife and just going out and killing someone?
Right.
Going back to the film, I love that previous scene that we just saw. It's a great montage. It uses that catchy song we've heard, but it makes it creepy. It's such a happy song, but you know what's coming now, and you know what's this big giveaway, and all of this is something that's really evil. And just see these kids who are just oblivious to everything, wearing their masks and just skipping around. I just think it's
kind of drives the point home that it's not just a local problem; it's national.
No, it's
nationwide.
It's nationwide. Nationwide, asshole.
I love the shot too in Phoenix, the one that's on that cover, like the movie.
That's sunset.
These are just silhouettes on the sunset coming through.
Yeah, that's a beautiful shot. Beautiful shot. Yeah. Little do they know that the secret prize is a one-way ticket to hell.
Cricket? Well, it is a cricket. It is a one-way.
It is a cricket. Actually,
it is a one-way cricket.
It is. So it's a one-way cricket to hell.
No doubt.
That's a good song.
One-way cricket to hell?
Yeah.
That's actually a song?
No, these guys can rip people's heads off and pull people's skulls apart, but he needs a drill to kill this chick.
Right.
Hey,
it's just a prep.
Was
it extra headed gore? Was that Dino wants some gore, so we better do it.
I think they cut it away and don't even show it.
Yeah.
Man, she cannot wrap her head around what's going on with those gears. She's been looking at that shit the entire movie.
It's really grinding her
What
gears.
is it?
Oh my god, it's a robot.
This is not a person.
It's not a
This guy was wearing a really weird watch.
I don't think that I could ever come to the idea that it was a robot from a few bits and screws, but that's pretty awesome.
That's Swiss craftsmanship right there.
Yeah, that's it.
Ooh, in the ear again. Oh. They don't show it like Lucio Fulci, style, drill through the head. But that's not the
Lucio
style the
Fulci-
film's going for. It's more like Halloween, the first Halloween. There isn't a lot of gore in this. There's a few like ripping the head off, but it's a little bit more.
A geyser of blood.
No, I'm just saying it does have gore, but I'm saying it's not like to the point of a Friday the 13th film or.
No doubt.
Well, they did have to hold back a little bit because the MPAA was
the
pretty
Motion
Nazi
Picture
back then.
Association of assholes.
Well, we did see a kid pretty much explode.
Yeah, I know, but it's
Choose
not.
their
You didn't
battles.
see the kids. You didn't see snakes and crickets. Like you didn't see a zoom in of his face, and then like.
So you can keep
If
this.
they made this movie
but you gotta
today,
use the
you'd
drill.
see him cut out the eye and the,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
it'd be a totally different thing. It'd be CG. It'd be awesome.
It'd be terrible.
It'll be-
Exactly.
We'll fix it in post, fellas.
Yeah, we'll fix it. Don't worry.
I don't want to see the Asylum's version of Halloween 3. No, thank you.
No.
Now the Lucio Fulci version of Halloween, I'd be interested in. It'd be all stabbings to the eye.
God, he's just so obsessed with the eyes. This is a great speech.
I know.
Great. Excellent speech.
Let you know just how diabolical he really is.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's
Halloween
always
one of
kind
my
of-
favorite scenes in all the Halloween movies right here because
Mhm.
you know, he's pulling off a Donald Pleasance here. I think he's the Donald of this film.
Yeah.
He's
That's a good
really
point.
he's really he's just commanding the screen. I don't know. I love this guy right here. I'm terrified of him, and if it were any other actor, I don't know if it would have worked.
No, I don't think so either.
Oh, you literally read my mind. Like I was gonna say that like he is like the evil Dr. Loomis for this film.
Yeah.
So
Evil
good.
Willy Wonka. Willy Loomis.
I mean, he was so nice before, greeting people, and he was so
Yeah.
hospitable, and like, I don't know. Now
He
he's
turns
just
on a
turned into-
dime.
He's a sociopath, right? I guess he's a true
Yeah.
sociopath.
We have a sociopath on this show, Anthony. His name's Orc.
There's Halloween again. There's Halloween. There was war.
Yeah, they're really like. I guess I didn't realize how many times they showed Halloween.
I know.
How many? Maybe 6 times? I don't know.
Can I get a real talk?
This is the second time.
Real talk coming
Real
at you.
talk.
All right, Anthony Massey, best documentary and web form from back in the day.
Yeah. It ushered in a new generation of, horror retrospective documentary.
You know,
Orc was known on the message boards. He was a big deal on the message
He was
boards.
a big deal on the message boards. Yeah.
This is the only time watching Halloween, the first Halloween, it's not good. It's bad, because you're tied up, you got that mask on, Halloween is on, but you're like, oh god, I can't
But
really
you're gonna
enjoy
die before the film's over.
it. Yeah.
I'm gonna have snakes and shit come out of my mouth. Fuck.
That used to be my big pickup line. Was I'm a big deal on the message boards.
Yeah.
What's up, ladies?
Dude, chicks dig that shit, man.
Oh yeah. Man, you should read my fanfic.
Halloween 3
It may not look
fanfiction.
like much, but on Twitter, I'm the shit. I have 5 accounts.
All jokes though, I did read a really good Halloween fanfic on that site.
He's like, I
read
gotta
my
shut off Halloween.
You should read my Tom Atkins fanfic erotica. It's very
That's the
Yeah,
only
it's out
time it's
there,
okay to kick, the original film, in the face. Is there.
If you don't want to turn into snakes.
It's not really easy to do.
That's some power in those legs, man.
Yeah, man. Those
He's
screens were,
Atkins.
those screens were pretty
Yeah,
good.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, light exercise from those thrusts.
Squats, man.
I mean, you could hit it with a hammer, and I don't think it would have that much of a.
Yeah, it's an old TV too. It's one of those old plate glass.
That was a good shot.
No, that's a
That was
great.
It was a great shot. I
That's
mean,
the Atkins.
that might be the most unrealistic moment in the film. Like just that one shot, one take. It probably didn't take one take. That had to have been.
He used the
He was
power
like,
of
"Kobe!"
mustache to guide
If
him.
Tom Atkins threw it, it took one take.
But can you imagine, if that was actually it took multiple takes? Like it's taking all night just to get this one.
They probably hung it on the camera and pulled it off.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
Like we're not gonna have him, or
But that would be awesome if they did. They were just like, oh, come on. Land it.
43 share.
Thank God no one's watching the camera.
Yeah. Well, they can't. Well, they can't really watch. Well, no. Yeah, they could see it's blocked and then know something's wrong. But yeah.
Into the ducts.
Of course, every air duct fits a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love just the score, man. It's just so excellent. I don't think the film would be as memorable to me without the score. That's how great the score is.
Yeah, it's a great score.
And that's a lot of films nowadays are lacking that, like a score that you can listen to without the film, and it still creates the same sort of emotions without the footage on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like Carpenter's films, I mean, all of them have such, not all of them, but or the early ones have such memorable scores.
Yeah.
It's something very special with him as an artist. It's a very special thing for him.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you any score that I've remembered in the last 20 movies I've seen.
Yeah.
You know, they're there. You're very aware of them. You know, you hear the music, but they aren't memorable.
No.
And I really don't know what that is. I don't know if it's just, I mean, Carpenter's music, he will tell you himself, you know, it's very simple. It's repetitive and simple.
Yeah.
Wait.
That's
Anthony,
like
sorry to interrupt. Are you telling me you don't like the Friday the 13th remake rap music?
God.
Come on.
But Cold in July is a prime example of a more recent film that I think, but it was inspired by Carpenter. So I think that's why the score was so memorable to me, is because it was inspired by Carpenter. Same thing goes for It Follows. Great score, inspired by Carpenter.
It's so funny you said that. I was just going to mention It Follows, and you know, that movie was heavily influenced by Halloween.
Yeah.
I think Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think the director said Creature from the Black Lagoon was also major influence on that because of the lumber, like the lumbering of the people walking.
Yeah.
It was very much taken from Creature, and it's like now that I hear that I go, yeah, you know. By the way, I just have to say how much I love It Follows. I mean, I don't know if you guys liked it or not, but
Yeah.
you know what was great about it? There's a lot of this is what my take is. There's a lot of horror movies that rely on, they try to like do the shots like Halloween, they frame it like Halloween, and It Follows did that. But what It Follows had was an incredible story, an incredible monster, all by itself. So it didn't need the crutch of it. So because it was strong on its own, seeing those things was just like it wasn't a ding. It wasn't a bad thing because
icing on the cake
was so strong.
Really, totally icing on the cake for me when it comes to It Follows.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the few horror films I've seen this year, and one of the few horror films in a long time to make me really feel scared and actually look behind me. And after I was over in the theater, like I was walking home. I had to walk home, and it was just one of those, you know. I did glance back a few times, you know.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to the differences of the audience as well, because that's why it got so much hate. Because, you know, it did all that great suspense building. That, you know, it wasn't just jump to a kill, you know, like most movies are.
Yeah,
you know.
A lot of people thought it was overrated, I noticed, because they didn't have a lot of gore, and it wasn't chock full of jump scares all throughout the entire movie.
The best horror movies, to me, keep revealing something about the monster. So it's like Creepers had a monster, like by the end of the movie, it's flying out the window. You know, and you don't, in the beginning of the movie, he's just this guy, which you think is a guy in a coat. You know, and then you realize he can jump, and then you can realize that he can fly, and then, you know, and so It Follows did that. It was like, oh, you know, it's invisible. Well, you knew that it was invisible to everyone but the person seeing it. But at the end, it was picking things up, and then it was, you just kept learning about it. And
I love the peripheral
scares. Go ahead.
So I love the peripheral scares. Those are just fantastic. I love it when films do that, when there's something in the corner of my eye, and you know, love how it plays tricks on you like that. And
I liked it. I had some problems with it, but I liked it overall.
It's definitely. I mean, I was gonna say it's my favorite horror movie of the year, but I mean, I think it's it's definitely up there. Just one of my favorite movies of the year. Period.
I would say I don't think it's a film for everybody. Kind of with Halloween 3. I don't think Halloween 3 is a film for everybody either. I mean, they're both films that are slow, a little bit slow paced, slow build. You know, they don't really have a lot of gore. There's a little bit, but not a lot.
The thing with me about It Follows, I like the slowness. It's just that the creatures seem kind of stupid at times with some of its disguises. But how you don't trick someone when you're an old woman naked, or a woman naked pissing herself? I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be tricked by you. I think there's something weird here.
Yeah.
How many naked women are pissing in my, front door? And I'm like,
That's
way.
I think it needs to be shown like right after sex ed.
Yeah,
right.
It is. It's a good allegory.
I told all my friends with teenagers, I said, take them to It Follows. It's the best sort of anti-sex movie you're gonna get.
This is what happens.
Exactly.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Be abstinent. Otherwise, a ghost will hunt you down and kill you.
All right. So in terms of Halloween 3, what do you think it's? Movies are. They're part of our philosophy as culture, right? Artists are making, I think artists are philosophers of our time. We're the ones documenting culture and writing movies and stuff. What do you think Halloween 3 is saying to the world?
Technology, in a way. I think it was kind of almost fear of technology and fear of the unknown, something that everyone's always been scared of.
Fear of the abuse.
And then it combined it, and then the fear of commercialism and all of these, people with power and the advertising advertising I think was becoming bigger, I think, at this time, wasn't it?
Corporations, the power of corporations.
Yeah, the power of
corporations was starting to get pretty powerful at that time, yeah.
Yeah. There have been commercials in the 70s and things like that, but it really started to get really, really big around this time.
Well, Tommy Lee Wallace said something in the 25 Years of Terror documentary where he says, the TV is something that's in the center of everyone's home.
I always love the buttons are doing all this.
Yeah, you don't realize how exactly. I mean, I don't think they were saying television is bad for you, but
no.
I think maybe it's saying something about consumerism. What you were saying, something about consumerism, media, sort of taking more power than you're aware of. It's sort of like if you don't pay
subliminal
attention
messaging.
To your power, you'll literally die. If they take your power from you. It has something to do with that. I think it was right for the time. I think it was a really interesting message for the time.
They Live would expand upon that, a few years later. And do more with the consumerism angle and the fear of consumerism and the fear of the power of the advertising companies and the corporations and things like that. So
I love this, how he knows he's fucked and he just looks up.
Yeah.
I love
the effects in this scene.
Up here.
I mean, he's
like you got me. Good job.
I never understood why the female android didn't try to stop Tom Atkins at any time.
I love the effect. The effects in this are so bad. This scene, but I'll give it a slide.
I really
like this.
This is a whipped cream man or something. Like he turned into whipped cream. He turned into a walking cream.
I think that's pretty cool.
Disappeared.
I think it looks pretty cool.
What were you gonna say, Anthony?
No, I was just gonna. I really liked this scene. It looked very comic booky in a way. Yeah. And I like that. I've always liked it.
With the fire in the background, I love that shot. It's good.
Nice.
I think it's a matte painting. I think.
Oh yeah, sure. Almost looks like the Trauma logo.
Oh god,
You're right. It does. Yeah.
It does though. Yeah.
Again, the android waits until now to do it.
Yeah, I was remember when I first saw this. This is the moment that made me go, "What?"
Okay, so at what point did she actually turn into an android?
Yeah, exactly.
When he went and got her off of that stretcher, when Cochran took her away, that's when they androided her, or she was already an android.
I think she was kidnapped out of the hotel room, and then that's when they changed her.
Yeah, but they had her for what? Maybe 3-4 hours tops.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he had seen her before, so he
They already created an android of her. That's my theory. They already created an android of her, and then they killed the real Stacey Nelkin, and then replaced.
Maybe they had an android of Tom Atkins.
With the android.
Too.
No, they couldn't make an android of Tom Atkins.
No, they couldn't do that.
Yeah, the world would definitely explode.
It would explode.
Because then there'd be
You can't recreate that mustache.
that would be unbearable.
Yeah.
Cannot recreate the Atkins. There's only one Atkins.
There's only one. There can be only
Only one.
By the way, I'll tell you about Tom
Oh,
Atkins.
bar.
He's one of the interviews we didn't get to do. He was in Pennsylvania, so I hired a company
Sucks.
to shoot his actual interview.
Isn't that
And-
when the film was shot? Where was the film was shot? Somewhere in Pennsylvania, I think, right? Wasn't that where parts of Halloween 3
I can't
were
remember. No, this
shot?
film was shot in, wasn't it up in, it was Northern California somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's like trying to get the Pennsylvania look, though, like Pittsburgh type,
Right.
working class type factory.
What were you saying, Anthony?
Well, we were saying that one of the questions we had the production company ask him was, how does he feel about his status of being like this sex symbol in these movies? And when we got the footage back, he laughed so hard. He's like, we actually sent him the questions beforehand, and he says on camera, some of this I think made it into the documentary. He's like saying, because when my wife read this question, he's like, she laughed her ass off, and it was just. Because he never thought of himself, though. He's just become this character. Think about it, like Jamie Lee Curtis in The Fog. Like, he's really not a ladies' man, but he kind of is a ladies' man.
No, he is.
Yeah, and I just remember watching the footage and just laughing with him because I was, what's that like to be some kind of normal-looking guy who has this reputation of like, I don't know. But he found it hilarious that people think that of him. So.
He needs
Well,
to
he
remind
was the old
his
school.
wife-
He needs to own it, man.
I know.
The Atkins.
Remind his wife that he's a sex symbol.
In the days before
Not laugh at that
metrosexuals and pretty boys, a real man was rough and rugged and not exactly pretty. It was masculine, and that used to turn women on. And
Nowadays,
all that changed.
Yeah. I love how it just keeps coming. It's like beat the shit out of the robot before, and then like its hand tries to strangle him.
It's
and
only a flesh wound.
Yeah.
I'll gnaw your knees off.
Yeah, it's like the Terminator in the 19. And that would actually, hey, this came out before the Terminator, so they have this sort of Terminator sort of robot horror element.
Atkins has that kind of sway over women, even female androids. They just keep coming.
Yeah.
They can't keep
coming back for more.
Too much.
By the way,
Too much.
Right back to Huggy Bear.
That is
Tom
the
Atkins'
actor.
death scene in the My Bloody Valentine remake. Have you seen that? His death
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like that movie.
Like,
I like
the best. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does have a great death scene in that movie.
That was a fun movie to see in the theater in 3D. On home video, not nearly as much.
Yeah, I liked it. I saw it in the theater, and I was kind of like, yeah, the 3D is kind of fun. But after that, I was done. I was shocked to see him in it. Or,
I had a
like,
great time with it.
Yeah, I didn't like the
Iconic,
story.
too, from Roadhouse.
Here we go.
Here comes this one.
Turn
Great
off your
ending.
commercials.
Man,
No,
I
he
would
would place today. He would just do like a YouTube video, and it would go viral in 10 seconds.
I love my
Exactly.
speaking of YouTube videos. I love my friend Matt. He did a version of this for.
But the thing is, I wish I had that power. I hate this commercial. Let me make a phone call. Can you stop it, please? Only Tom Atkins has that
I
power.
love when he did.
Bugs
Matt
are gonna
did a
come out of their
clever edit
faces.
Where he saw, what was it, the Turtles Christmas thing?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. At what point do you drop the phone and run because you know what's going to happen?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. See,
Pull the kid away from the TV. You can save one kid.
He's the only person that knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, you're right. He's not even trying to save the one kid.
Put the fucking mask on the kid.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop
But
it!
I thought it was a nice
I love that
question mark ending. Kind of like John Carver's
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Question mark.
It's
No, it is a great ending.
It's a downbeat ending that it earns. It earns that ending. The film
Depending
always
on,
has this sense of overwhelming dread over it anyway.
depending on your mind, it could choose either way. Who's that? Depending on your mind frame, you could choose whether they all died or whether magically they survived, kind of like John Carter's The Thing.
Yeah.
That's a good question mark type of thing.
Definitely.
Well, let's field some questions here. Let's see what's going on. A couple of questions from the website. Well, actually, Rob Berman, who I believe did the
Wow.
he did the special effects for this film.
Awesome.
Actually commented on the website. He said,
That's
one of
really
my
cool.
early films, and then he left a smiley face for it.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Berman.
Thanks, Rob.
Did a great
Did a
job.
great job.
Excellent work on the film, Rob. Absolutely. Excellent work on the film. Will Barber has a question for Anthony. With Halloween 3 being considered by many to be the black sheep of the Halloween franchise, what impact do you think the film has had on people as a whole?
Absolutely zero.
We're all here watching it, talking about it.
No, we're. I mean, it really. I don't think people get up in the morning and think of Halloween 3. But I think horror fans have. I think it teaches horror fans that that you don't have to be a Halloween #1, Nightmare on Elm Street #1, Jason #1, or Friday 13 #1 to be a great movie. You can find really great things in horror movies. This movie had elements of like music. The Atkins, of course, the masks and everything. So I think I'm talking about horror fans. I don't think the average person is affected by this movie at all. But horror fans ultimately discover it and find out that it's pretty good.
For Reels Reviews tweets to us. He says, looking forward to the show. Glad to see you guys showing some love for the underrated Halloween 3. Thanks for tuning in. He also wonders if Halloween 3 had been received well, how long the whole anthology series idea would have lasted. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about. How long do you guys think, the yearly Halloween kind of movie would have lasted?
Depends on the box office, really. That's what Hollywood and all these, they want. It's all about, the money. Money talks. So it would depend on the box office. If it continued to be successful, the anthology approach, then they probably would have kept doing it.
Yeah, it's just like Grindhouse. That was going to be a yearly thing, but because that film didn't do well, that was all you had. So it just depends.
I blame Death Proof.
Yeah, Death Proof.
Clint Terror was awesome.
I don't know how long it would have lasted. I mean, I would think, based on the success of the original Halloween, if they'd followed it up with another really strong film, Halloween-based, I mean, it could have gone on a few. I mean, it's a really great idea, and they could have done, their yearly Halloween movie, and if it was a success, then you could have done sequels off that movie. You just have like a pyramid scheme of movies and sequels, and I mean, it would have made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful idea. But I think most people, they like familiarity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you've got Paranormal Activity, we're on 5.
God, 50?
Like yeah, so every year, that's what people like. They like this, and then they get tired of it, and it goes away. It's all about the cycle. So I kind of think that it probably wouldn't have done well. And, we saw the first of it here. It didn't really sell that well, but that's my opinion, I guess. But
yeah, I agree.
Good point.
From the comment section of the YouTube video, Saberfly says, "Thanks, guys. This is awesome. All the other shows / podcasts have kind of shit the bed this year, but not the Sausage Factory. Seriously, thanks to the whole crew and Mr. Massey." Well, thank you, man. We really appreciate the kind words.
No.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for
That was
getting
nice,
on.
yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
I'm glad we did not shit the bed.
That would not be good. I got a really
Never a
big
good
bed
time.
here. I can't afford to shit on it. So. Yeah.
No one likes
Seeing
shit.
train spotting gets me every time.
Movie Film 1 says Season of the Witch is an awesome movie even without Michael Myers. We have Dick Warlock and Tom Atkins, who are very cool. True. Drunken Steve says, holy shit, it's Big Papa Pump. Holler if you hear me. John Avenger says, Pizzle, you crack me up. What an entrance. Thank you very much.
You're just making these up at this point, right?
I am. J699 says, what's going on, guys? Halloween 3 is a great film. I'm glad they did it. It's one of my favorite horror films. Cool. John Avenger has a question for Mr. Massey. He says, Mr. Massey, I have a question. What would be your idea for a new Halloween film that's different from the last two films? What would your, if they gave you carte blanche to make the next Halloween film, what would be your Halloween film?
Well, it's very interesting. I wrote a script way back when they were making Halloween 9 before Zombie did his remakes. And I wrote a script with a guy who lived in, was it Sweden? I can't remember. I never met the guy. And he followed my Myers Museum website way back when. And this guy I never met, he and I wrote a script. And it involved Loomis. We had Loomis sort of, God, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but Loomis was in it. And there was a son of Loomis. Oh my God, I'm trying to remember it. But yeah, I would have told something more traditional. I wouldn't have done anything like the Druids in Part 6 or anything like that. I would not have gone down that road. It was so my vision would be more traditional. I like what the Marcus Dunstan is doing. I don't know if I'm thrilled with the story about Michael sort of being on death row. Don't know how I feel about that. But then again, that sounds a lot better than, I don't know, Busta Rhymes in Part 9. So, yeah, I would probably do something a little more traditional, back to basics, and I wouldn't shoot him out into space.
Well, it sounds better than them going, well, let's do an origin story, or let's explain why Michael Myers can't die, or, you know what I mean?
I don't really want that.
Let's do another remake.
No, not found footage.
He was an abused child that had a stripper for a mom. Never mind.
It doesn't need an origin story.
Exactly. Orc, let me ask you. You've got total carte blanche, total creative freedom. Tell us your Halloween film.
All right, ready? Michael Myers in space.
Oh
no!
You lost us already.
No.
Hey, that would have been today's crowd. What do you
Wait. How does he get to space?
He's in a spaceship that's like it looks like a pumpkin, and he flies away.
Maybe he would hang out with Snoop Dogg and get so high they would just float up into space.
Oh yeah, seemed like.
Now is Yao Ming gonna play Michael in this one?
What'd you say?
Yao Ming, is that gonna be Michael?
No, Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq.
We have to get someone taller than what Tyler Dane or whatever.
And M. Night Shyamalan's twist is that
Tyler Mane.
the dad was black, African American, and the mom was white, and then that's how you got Shaquille O'Neal.
And then Bruce Willis is in and he's dead.
And Eddie Murphy is the grandfather.
Oh God! Or just stop. People are tuning out left and right, or totally turned
the worst ideas for Halloween sequel.
Looks like Cole is watching us. He's in the comment section of the video. Miss you tonight, Cole. But he's watching apparently and commenting. I'm sure they're hateful comments. J699 says, just want to say this has been my favorite stream. Well, thanks, dude. We appreciate it.
Oh, cool.
The blue corner says, you got to go into Halloween 3 not thinking it's a Halloween movie. Okay. Well, let's do some closing thoughts on Halloween 3 before we call it a night here, people.
It's fucking crazy.
It's a classic. I think it's an unsung, underrated classic. I think it's up there with some of the best horror films, horror sequels out there. Even though it doesn't have a lot of Michael Myers, even though he's in it in one scene on a TV, but it's not. He's not really technically in the film in terms of the story. But I've always liked the film. I think it's a crazy, surreal, absurd, really awesome, great film. You don't really see films like that nowadays. And, except I'm seeing more and more films like this in the independent film genres, in the independents, and that's really cool. So, yeah, I love it.
What about you, Rambo? Closing thoughts on Halloween 3?
I've always enjoyed this film. The score, the atmosphere that John Carpenter feel. I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. He's my favorite director. Even though he didn't direct this, it still has that feel to it, which makes me love it. I mean, John Carpenter's thing is my favorite horror film. I've always enjoyed Tom Atkins is great, music is great, good effects, and when even around nowadays it's just so bad. I'm like, I've seen bad movies,
Oh yeah,
a lot of bad movies, and I don't think this is one of them. So I've always thought this was an underrated flick, and I think it deserves another fair shake.
If anybody has any questions or for Anthony, shoot them to us really quick here. Tweet them at us at TSF Nation or leave them in the comment section of the video. Closing thoughts, Raiho?
The movie has grown on me over the years. I mean, initially I was frustrated that Michael wasn't on it because he made me look like a dick.
Well, I can see why.
But I think the absurdity of it and the fact that I've seen so many movies that, like Rambo just said, I've seen so many bad movies and things like that. You know what? This might be a silly movie, but at least it's a good movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has it's completely ridiculous at times, but the story's there. It all links together. It all works, and and I think Mike mentioned a bunch of times the score is fantastic in the movie, and it's one of the pieces of it that I really enjoy. I'm sorry I couldn't hear it tonight because I didn't have the sound on, but yeah, it's absolutely. I'm one of the converts. I do enjoy watching it now. This is a movie that I never ever watched, and I very much enjoy it.
What about you, Wark?
It was shit on so much from all the years that I was growing up to I basically didn't see it until 5 years ago on AMC, so it was edited to shit. But even then, I still really enjoyed it, and I don't know why it got so much hate over all these years. One thing that I really like about the movie, though, is the special effects are really, really awesome, especially the uncut version. Not on TV, and yeah, 2 thumbs up, bam.
Big props goes out to Tom Berman.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely. What about you, Stingray?
I could just echo what the other guy said. I've never really, had a sour feeling on this film whatsoever. I've always enjoyed it. Like I said earlier, this was. I think I saw like part 5 first, so after seeing that, so going back and watching it, I don't even know if I was expecting to see Michael in the film. Also, I wasn't really disappointed, but love it, still love it. Looks great.
After seeing part 5, yeah, or did you think that you're glad Michael wasn't in it?
Yeah, it was not a good choice to start with for sure.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, this is my first time to watch this movie in HD, and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look great.
You did a great job with the remaster.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
But I would just echo everything you guys said. I mean, it was first time I saw it, I just kept waiting for Michael to come out. I mean, I spent the whole movie waiting for Michael Myers, and it didn't happen, and I was disappointed. But I think a lot of you guys know I love the Black Sheep movies with these series, and it was one that I just watched over and over again. And I mean, I've watched Halloween 3 more than I've watched, like, say, Halloween 5 or Halloween Resurrection or Halloween H2O. Or, this is a movie that, I have a huge fondness for. So yeah, and back a long time ago when I reviewed the Blu-ray that Shout Factory did, I said, this is kind of like such a triumph for Halloween 3. It had such a rocky road, and now it went from absolutely hated to a huge cult movie.
Yeah.
And I think you'd be more hard pressed today to find people who say they hate it than you would have even 10 years ago.
Oh, I still see people. I still
Still on
see
the internet,
people.
you can
It's still on the
find
internet. I get a lot of.
Everybody on the internet hates
Wait, you found hate on the internet?
I've gotten comments where they just
Worst
say
movie ever.
it sucks because
Well, I'm talking.
no Michael
I mean
Myers.
serious.
That's it. No
I
Michael
mean
Myers.
serious horror fans. People like us.
Yeah.
Serious horror fans.
Yeah.
I'm
Mike,
right
your
there.
closing thoughts on Halloween 3?
Well, like I said before, of course, I was a little bit disappointed, but as a whole, I was surprised at the same time. Even though I was disappointed there was no Michael, I was really surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. I thought it was it captured the feeling of Halloween, the holiday, the music. There's some good gore in it. Atkins. I mean, what more do you want? I enjoyed it. I think like I said, I didn't hate it as much as Friday 5 because I felt Friday 5 cheated me with Roy, the ambulance driver. That really pissed me off. This didn't really hit me that hard, but I've come to love Friday 5 too. But Halloween 3, I've always liked more.
Okay.
And I just want to say one reason to see this movie is it's original. And it's in the horror genre. You cannot find something that isn't derived from another movie. I mean, there's so many Cabin in the Woods movies, slash movie. This is a wholly original story made with a lot of passion. This movie. I mean, if you want an original grim fairy tale horror movie, it really delivers. So, and I'm just going to put on record, I think this has probably inspired American Horror Story. The idea of there being a yearly story to be told. This attempted it. It failed, but it was very brave and is original. And it's so hard to find stuff like that nowadays. That's why I loved It Follows. I loved Babadook. I loved these stories that have these really doing something new in a genre that's been beaten to death. So that's my final thought on it. It's great because it's original.
They don't have any studio interference most of the time, so they're able to get their original stories out there. I wouldn't say it failed. I'd say it failed financially. If you're talking about it was a failure in terms of making money, but I think I wouldn't consider it a total failure nowadays because of the cult following it's got. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just want to give a huge thank you to Anthony Massey for joining us tonight. We absolutely appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
It was fun.
I believe this is available. The hard copy is out of print, but you can stream it. I think you can buy it on iTunes, etc. If you've not seen Halloween 25 Years of Terror, by all means, go check it out. It started the popular sort of horror, the franchise documentaries that we see popping up everywhere today. Also, keep your eyes peeled for the Hellraiser Scarlet box set that Anthony did. The making, what would you call it for that box set, Anthony?
Well, there's a documentary on it called Evolutions.
Okay.
Hellraiser Evolutions. That's what we contributed. Yeah.
Okay. Definitely keep your eyes peeled for that.
Better get a loan ready.
That set looks amazing. I think actually it's already sold out. I think I heard Arrow report that it's already sold out.
It's sold out on Hobby. That's where I pre-ordered it.
Okay.
They haven't charged me yet, but I was kind of worried about that. But I guess they're just processing.
Right.
So keep your eyes peeled for that. And any other future projects you want to talk about, Anthony?
No, I'm good.
Well,
I would love
again,
to. Yes, that's
okay. Top secret stuff.
Secret. I would love to talk about it, but
All right, we're not live anymore. You can go ahead and tell us now.
Yeah, let's turn off the cameras.
You're gonna love it.
You can just tell us.
This was a lot of fun, really. Thank you for having me back, and you guys have a really great Halloween.
Thank you.
Will do.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
And big thank you to everybody out there who watched tonight and left questions and comments for it. We truly appreciate it. You guys are awesome. We hope you enjoyed our Halloween 3 live commentary with Anthony Massey. What's next week's show, Orc?
Next week's show is My Little Pony Adventures Part 3. Yeah, buddy! No? Okay.
Finally,
no.
Brony lifestyle.
Sorry. Okay, no, real talk. Next week's show is horror movies that actually scared us. Not just when we were younger, but at any part in our lives. So, yeah.
Next week, it doesn't have to be a horror movie. Next week, Thursday, live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Halloween, we are going to talk about the films that actually scare us or scared us. Any genre, doesn't matter. Films that actually scared us. So,
Mommy Dearest.
That could be on that list, absolutely. So, I guess we'll go ahead and we'll call it a night here tonight, and we'll see you guys next Thursday live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Holler! If you hear me! We'll see you guys next week. You guys have a great week.
See ya.
Later.
See you guys.
Where, Riho? How do they say it in Canada?
Canada?
What are we saying? Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace out.
There we go. All right.